Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. This was the overwhelming strength of the sacred armament mode. Extremely dangerous. Beyond dangerous. Saber immediately distanced herself from Akira. Just moments ago, she could clearly sense Akira's presence, but now, something had changed. After the golden spear appeared, even though Akira was right in front of her, Saber could no longer sense any trace of his energy. This distortion of perception was far more terrifying to Saber than any overwhelming power. Akira shook his head and slowly walked towards Saber. After Aguman awakened the sacred armament, Akira had tested its strength. Now, even with the 12-winged fallen angel avatar, Aguman's sacred armament remained Akira's strongest trump card. Facing the approaching Akira, Saber's gaze sharpened, and she gripped her holy sword tightly. Ha! Invisible air, boom! A powerful gust of wind erupted, sweeping across the ground and rushing toward Akira. Whoosh! A sound reminiscent of Accelerator's ability echoed. Before the wind could even reach Akira, Saber's invisible air dissipated on its own. What? There's no need to be surprised, Akira said as he continued forward. Saber, you're a battle-oriented servant. You know how to use tools called noble phantasms, but you don't understand the principles behind their creation. In my world, most people must have a deep understanding of magic. Otherwise, they can't even use it properly. Knowing how to activate magic naturally means knowing how to dismantle it. Akira's words were correct. However, instantaneous calculation and dismantling required an immense amount of magical knowledge and computational power, which Akira couldn't achieve on his own. But with the sacred armament, Akira could directly tap into Aguman's vast knowledge and computational abilities. Combined with his Eye of Insight, Aguman's magical knowledge, and computational power, Akira could achieve this feat. Ha! Saber pushed aside her doubts and stepped forward, raising her holy sword to meet Akira's spear. However, clang, the sound of metal clashing echoed. After the collision, Akira's spear spun at an unnatural angle, aiming straight for Saber's neck. What? Saber's sword erupted with a powerful gust of wind, barely allowing her to dodge. What was that just now? Saber was shocked. If it were just a physical collision, such a trajectory would be impossible. It's nothing. I just set up a spell on the spear before the collision. Once a certain part of the spear is struck, it triggers an internal force, causing the spear to shift. That's all, Akira explained as he continued to advance with his spear. Sounds simple when you say it like that. Saber broke out in a cold sweat. If she hadn't activated invisible air earlier, the spear would have left a bloody mark on her neck. Was this precise control also part of Akira's calculations? To test her theory, Saber launched another attack. This time, Saber didn't use any fancy techniques, just a straightforward slash. Clang, the holy sword and the sacred spear collided, and the same thing happened again. Facing the spear's sudden twist and acceleration, Saber intercepted it with her sword. Then clang, another metallic clash. Saber barely managed to block the spear aimed at her delicate neck. Unfortunately, while she could block the second strike, she couldn't block the third. The spear shifted its trajectory again, aiming for Saber's neck. Whoosh! Invisible air erupted once more. However, this time, as soon as Saber's invisible air activated, she heard the same sound as before. The wind dissipated instantly, and the spear continued its path unimpeded. In Saber's eyes, even though she had retreated with all her might, the spear still accurately grazed her neck. Saber retreated several meters and touched her neck. Sure enough, a thin line of blood had been drawn. Seeing this, Saber puffed out her cheeks in frustration. During our fight, you used the same amount of force as me. But with your absolute calculation skills, you completely overwhelmed me, like an adult toying with a child. Do you find it fun to tease me like this? As she spoke, Saber's ouch swayed cutely, making Akira want to pluck it off. Saber, you guessed right. Akira smiled happily. It's because your reactions when being teased are so adorable. So, to see more of that cuteness, I have no choice but to tease you a bit more. Humphrey. What a perverse sense of humor. Saber pursed her lips. This kind of mischief was exactly like the daemons from myths. Although she was unhappy, Saber had to admit that, in terms of combat skills, Akira had completely crushed her. Even if she regained all the power she had in her prime as a servant, she would still be far from matching him. Because regaining her power only increased her combat ability by a small margin, while Akira's skills were on a completely different level. After a moment of thought, the golden-haired maiden raised her holy sword again, attempting to break through Akira's defenses with her own skills. Ha! Saber let out a soft cry, her clear voice echoing alongside the clashing of the holy sword and spear. She didn't complain about Akira using spells on his spear, as that would be hypocritical. After all, she had used invisible air herself. Demanding that Akira fight her in pure melee combat just because she was at a disadvantage would be too shameless. She wasn't that kind of person. In a fight, reach mattered. To defeat a spear with a sword, one needed overwhelming skill. But in this case, Akira's skill far surpassed Saber's. Saber's attempt to rely on her instincts and talent to overcome this gap was, in Akira's eyes, like a blind person trying to read an electronic book with braille, utterly futile. Saber is Saber, so stubborn. Akira shook his head. However, since Saber wanted to play, he was happy to oblige. And so, Akira and Saber continued their duel without using any special powers. Even the strength Akira used was precisely matched to Saber's. Finally, after hundreds of failed attempts to outmaneuver Akira, Saber gave up. Even when she deliberately held back or stopped resisting, Akira could still leave a thin line of blood on her neck without seriously injuring her. This wasn't a duel, it was pure teasing. Invisible air. Saber unleashed invisible air at full power, almost as if she was giving up. Then, whoosh, the wind died down almost instantly. As soon as the breeze started, it was immediately dispelled. Noticing the change in Saber's mood, Akira narrowed his eyes and used instant movement to appear in front of her. First secret technique, Rhino Strike, a powerful force transmitted through the spear, and Saber's holy sword was knocked out of her hand. What? Saber quickly retreated, glancing at her sword and then at Akira, looking like a child who had done something wrong. Earlier, Akira had used far more strength than she had. She knew why. Her half-hearted attitude had displeased Akira. So, after her sword was knocked away, Saber felt lost. She didn't know what to do. What's wrong? Aren't you going to pick it up? I'll allow it. Akira narrowed his eyes, showing no intention of pursuing her. Akira allowed Saber to retrieve her sword. It was like a master allowing a puppy to fetch a thrown toy. This was part of the training process. Saber remained silent for a few seconds before quietly picking up her sword, her heart heavier than ever. Her swordsmanship had been honed through countless battles, almost reaching the realm of mastering one technique to master all. But even so, she was no match for the young man before her. Whether it was skill or equipment. No. What had been crushed was only Excalibur. If it were Avalon. Would Avalon make a difference? Now, even Saber wasn't confident about Avalon. Seeing Saber like this, Akira smiled faintly. Continuing to tease Saber like this wasn't fun anymore. He didn't want a king of knights with a broken spirit. That kind of king of knights wouldn't be as satisfying to conquer. So, Akira raised his sacred spear, ending the training game. It was time to move to the next stage. Saber. Since you're no longer in the mood to play, let's move on to the next stage. As you said, to change history, one must possess power that surpasses the world's will. With your world-class defensive power, you are the perfect candidate to test this. Akira raised the spear that pierces the world and chanted its true name in his heart. Spear, the true holy spear that pierces the world, draw upon the power of awakening and the principles of existence within me. As Akira chanted, the entire mirror dimension was filled with golden light. Countless golden threads flew in from the outside world and then flew out again, as if connecting countless realms. I understand. I will test this properly. Before Saber, the golden sheath of Avalon appeared, radiating a holy light. After escaping the one-sided combat, Saber regained some of her spirit. In terms of skill, Akira was undoubtedly a monster. But what about his noble phantasm? Pierce through the boundary between this world and the infinite worlds, you transcend truth and become light, Avalon. Distant utopia, clang the holy spear and the golden sheath collided. The golden light shattered everything. This golden light, it came from the holy spear. Garetsugu was blinded by the golden light. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back in the real world. Saber looked around, feeling somewhat dazed. Wait. Wasn't I using Avalon to block the spear? How did I end up back here? Before Saber, Akira calmly sat down and poured himself a cup of tea. Saber, to avoid destroying Avalon, Aguman redirected the spear's power to the mirror dimension. Now that the mirror dimension has shattered, we've returned to the real world. To avoid destroying Avalon? Saber looked down at Avalon in her hand. Avalon was unharmed. But something even more unsettling had happened. On Avalon, a golden mark of the Holy Spear had been engraved. How was this possible? Being destroyed would have been understandable, but how did a spear mark appear? Saber panicked. She was like a girl who woke up to find a heart-shaped mark on her stomach, frantically trying to wipe it off. Soon, Saber gave up. Forget it. This was just how it was. She was just a servant, after all. She didn't have the right to question the whims of a being who transcended worlds. Chapter 68, The Fate Shuttle, The Demon Who Observes the World. Saber gave up. Akira smiled as he watched Saber. After Saber let out a sigh, he heard the system's notification. Ding, congratulations, host, for completing the villain check-in level, gold, check-in type, event check-in event, the defeat of the King of Knights, requirement, defeat Saber in a direct confrontation, making her lose the will to resist. Congratulations, host, for receiving the reward, Fate Shuttle, a time-space shuttle powered by fate. Each time it performs a time-space jump, it requires a certain amount of fate as fuel. For male characters, their fate can be used as fuel by voluntarily relinquishing all their power. For female characters, their fate can be used as fuel by absorbing it through the high-dimensional succubus bloodline. After paying the price, the user can travel back to a major event in the timeline of the person who paid the price, achieving a certain degree of historical change. Note, only minor historical changes can be made. Major events cannot be altered. Even if significant changes are made, the world's correction force will revert the timeline to its original state. Apart from the host, only one additional person can be brought along per jump. The Fate Shuttle, powered by fate, could travel through time and space. Akira glanced at Saber. No wonder this machine was extracted from Saber. It seemed capable of fulfilling Saber's lifelong wish. However, the condition for activating the Fate Shuttle was to use the high-dimensional succubus bloodline to absorb all of a female character's fate. How could he convince Saber to pay the price before receiving the reward? While Akira was deep in thought, Garrett Sugumiya took the initiative to sit down. Akira, you've shown your power. If I'm not mistaken, the reason you did this was to propose a collaboration, right? Collaboration. That's not urgent. There are some things I need to clarify before we formally collaborate, Akira replied after some thought. What things? Garrett Sugu asked calmly, sipping his tea. Garrett Sugu, and Saber as well, let me explain the nature of this world. Akira extended his hand, projecting a screen in front of him. This was an extension of his balance breaker ability, allowing him to project what he had seen directly. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Akira, Akira Leviathan. Leviathan? I recall that's the name of a demon king from hell. Garrett Sugu's expression shifted slightly. Was Akira a demon king? A demon king who could command a 12-winged fallen angel and a being almost on par with it, like a Guman? This was beyond wild. Correct, Leviathan is a demon king from hell. The original Leviathan is dead, and I am his successor. Akira nodded. Since I was young, I've had a special ability to observe other worlds. And this is part of the result of my observations. Without my interference, this world would likely follow this path. Akira waved his hand, and the screen displayed the events of Fate 0. The Holy Grail War continued. Until only you and Kairiko Tomine remained. Saber fought against Gilgamesh, while you fought Kairai. When the Grail was activated, you realized it had been corrupted and chose to destroy it. The black mud from the Grail fell, causing massive destruction. However, compared to the destruction of the world, this was relatively minor. I've observed Holy Grail wars far more intense than this one. Akira casually played some clips from other Holy Grail wars. Although they weren't complete, Garrett Sugu could tell how intense the battles were just from the snippets. After my intervention, some people's fates changed. In the original timeline, Tokiomi Tasaka's wife, Aoi Tasaka, would have died. But now, seeing Garrett Sugu and Saber's expressions shift, Akira continued. Similarly, Sakura Mitu's original fate was to be thrown into the worm pit by the Mitu family's old worm, becoming a breeding ground for worms. 10 years later, she would become a master in the next Holy Grail War. Ilya's original fate was to never reunite with her parents, growing resentful and participating in the next Holy Grail War, only to die at the hands of Gilgamesh. So, the memories in our minds are the result of your interference? Garrett Sugu asked solemnly. How laughable. This world was so pitiful that even falling into the hands of a demon king was better than its original fate. So, what is your goal? Garrett Sugu's gaze sharpened as he looked at Akira. It was well known that demons would deceive their contractors through indirect means. However, demons could also grant wishes. And Garrett Sugu truly had a wish he was willing to make a deal with a demon for. My goal? Akira smiled pleasantly. When I was young, my power wasn't enough to let me travel to other worlds. Now that I have the power, I naturally want to fulfill some of my long-held desires. That is, to take possession of the beings from other worlds that interest me. Have you ever watched anime or movies? Have you ever wanted to enter those worlds and change the story to your liking? That's exactly what I'm doing now. I see. Geritsugu nodded. He understood now. Akira was a collector, and this world was his latest acquisition. While nodding, he made a decision. In that case, I want to make a deal with you. Do I have the qualifications to make a deal with you? Geritsugu asked knowingly. If he didn't have the qualifications, Akira wouldn't have shown him all this. Of course, you have the qualifications. I'm just curious, what price are you willing to pay? And what wish do you want to make? Geritsugu remained silent for a long time, as if organizing his thoughts. After half a minute, he spoke. I hope you can end the Holy Grail War with minimal damage, destroy the Grail, and prevent the black mud from spilling out. As for the price, whether it's Iris Veil, Saber, or even Mia, I don't care. Huh? Saber raised an eyebrow. Why could she be part of Geritsugu's price? Even if she were to sell herself, shouldn't she be the one to decide that? After hearing Geritsugu's wish, Akira raised an eyebrow and smiled. Geritsugu was indeed Geritsugu, always thinking of others as bargaining chips. However, Akira refused. Mr. Emiya, do you think too highly of me? Can what you're offering really be considered a price? Let's not even discuss whether you have the right to make decisions for Saber, or whether I have any interest in Mia. Just talking about Iris Veil. Since when has Iris Veil Insburn become your bargaining chip? You only have the right to beg me to save Iris Veil's life, not to use her as a bargaining chip to demand something from me, don't you think? Akira coldly retorted. So, the deal is off? Geritsugu sighed. As expected, demons were not easy to deal with. They might seem friendly on the surface, but when it came to making deals, they would never take a loss. No, Mr. Emiya, you misunderstand. I haven't given up on making a deal with you. I just want to change the price. Change the price? To what? Geritsugu became even more alert. I want all of your abilities, or rather, your fate. What do you mean by my fate? Geritsugu didn't quite understand. Alright, as a special service to facilitate the deal, let me explain. Akira stood up and began pacing slowly. Fate is the focus of the world's attention. The reason I can observe you participants of the Holy Grail War, and the reason you retain memories of the future even after the world's will was expelled, is because you possess this world's fate. Those who possess fate will remain strong until their destined time comes. No matter what happens, they will overcome adversity and rise again. However, once the destined time arrives, even those with fate cannot resist the call of destiny. They will inevitably meet their end. For example, Geritsugu Emiya. Your fate is to participate in the Fourth Holy Grail War, become one of the last two masters, and order Saber to destroy the Grail. Because you are not fated to participate in the Fifth Holy Grail War. Even if you weren't severely injured, you wouldn't live to see the next Holy Grail War 10 years later. Geritsugu fell silent. He had now seen the contents of two timelines. The first timeline was the one Akira had altered, leading to the future 10 years later. The second timeline was the original one, where Geritsugu had been severely injured and died before the next Holy Grail War. Even in the first timeline, where he wasn't injured, he rapidly weakened and died just before the Fifth Holy Grail War. He had been puzzled by this, but now he finally understood the reason. Is there any way to change fate? Geritsugu's voice grew hoarser. Yes. Haven't I already shown you? Akira smiled faintly. You mean your direct intervention is required? Geritsugu's eyes gradually lit up with understanding. Correct. Only an existence from outside the world can change fate. Only someone with a strong enough fate can change the fate of those with weaker fates. Both are necessary. Akira's knowledge about fate came partly from the system, partly from Aguman, and partly from the Fate Shuttle. Since the conditions for the Fate Shuttle to perform the time jump were strict, to prevent the host from wasting resources, the system provided detailed explanations about what kind of fate could be used as fuel. If I'm not mistaken, collecting fate is also very beneficial for you, right? Geritsugu flicked the ash off his cigarette and pressed further. It's beneficial, but not overwhelmingly so. Previously, the only benefit was absorbing fate through the high-dimensional succubus bloodline to increase power. But now, there was an additional benefit, the ability to travel through time, albeit with strict conditions. So, you help Tilia because... Geritsugu's gaze sharpened. Partly, yes. But personally, I quite like Ilia. Even if I couldn't obtain her fate, I would still save her just to satisfy my own desires and collecting habits. To satisfy your desires and collecting habits. Geritsugu shook his head. Demons were indeed demons, always so straightforward. So, Garetsugu Emiya. Now that you know all this, you should be able to make a decision, right? Deal? Or no deal? You've seen the events of this world and know my personality. You should understand that I won't force you. Because I'm a demon. Before signing a contract, I must confirm the contractor's willingness. Akira smiled. Demons truly are despicable creatures, Garetsugu commented neutrally. Indeed, demons are despicable. But they are also very real. Akira shrugged. Alright. Before answering this question. You said you wanted all of my abilities and fate. The magic crest I inherited from my father, does that count as part of my abilities? If not, I'd like to transfer the magic crest to someone else first. It's a symbol of the mark I've left on this world. After a few seconds of silence, Akira checked the Fate Shuttle's instructions and gave his approval. Sure, you can transfer the magic crest first. Good. Then there's nothing more to discuss. Let's sign the contract. My request remains the same. The price will be changed to my abilities and fate. The contract can be signed now, but I still need to retain my contract with Saber to complete some things I must do. Then, let's celebrate our successful collaboration in advance? Akira snapped his fingers, and a contract fell from the air. It was only in the Fate Zero world, where everyone's fate was so tragic, that this method could work. In other worlds. Chapter 69, The Night King's Voluntary Service, The True Heroic Spirit Descends. Whoosh. Garetsugu Emiya grabbed the contract and began to read it carefully. He was an expert at finding loopholes in contracts and knew exactly where to dig pitfalls. As Garetsugu read the contract, a system notification rang in Akira's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for triggering a villain sign-in level, gold, sign-in type, event sign-in event, the Night King's voluntary service, requirement, use the high-dimensional succubus bloodline to absorb the essence of Artoria's true body, deceive her into becoming your subordinate, and make her serve you voluntarily. Akira fell silent for a few seconds. Well, damn. He even felt that this sign-in mission was more difficult than marrying Greyfire and becoming a demon king. Marrying Greyfire only required accumulating enough power to rank among the top 2 in the world. But making Saber serve him voluntarily, and absorbing her true body's essence, the voluntary part wasn't a problem. But where was he supposed to find her true body? The current Saber's consciousness was connected to the moment she was on the verge of death during the Battle of Camlan. In other words, she had the consciousness of her true body, but her physical form was still a vessel created by the Holy Grail's mana. It wasn't her original body directly crossing over, she just couldn't materialize her true form. The true Saber didn't need a master to supply her with mana, her own power was nearly infinite. The true Saber, during the Battle of Camlan, was already in a state of despair and severe injury, sustained only by Excalibur and Avalon. Wait. Did he have to cut the world again to get her true body? That didn't seem right. If that were the case, the reward shouldn't be gold, it should at least be rainbow-colored. Huh? Saber noticed Akira's gaze and tilted her head slightly in confusion. Could it be that Akira had finished negotiating the contract with Garetsugu and now wanted to discuss terms with her? Well, she also wanted to ask Akira what conditions needed to be met to achieve the feat of changing the world. No problem, Garetsugu said, reaching out to leave his magical crest on the contract. However, just as he was about to finalize the contract, Akira stopped him. Mr. Emiya, don't rush. I want to modify the contract. Why? Garetsugu frowned. Because the situation has changed. Akira took the contract and made some adjustments to its specific content. As compensation for agreeing to give you the magical crest, I hope you can immediately pay the price after giving the crest and provide the ritual. But if I give all the rituals, Saber will. You should be able to transfer the command seals, right? Transferring them to Ilia would work just as well. If you're not comfortable transferring them to Ilia, you can also transfer them to someone else. After all, you won't die, at most, you'll lose all your power, but you can still watch the Holy Grail War to its conclusion. Huh? I won't die? Garetsugu showed the most puzzled expression since they had met. Well, damn. He had thought that giving up all the rituals would definitely kill him, so he had been preparing to settle his affairs in the past few days. Knowing that he wouldn't die, Garetsugu's mindset subtly changed. How would his life end after the Holy Grail War concluded? His thoughts drifted for a moment, but he quickly refocused. Alright, I agree to modify the contract. However, I also need to add a clause. I hope you can guarantee the safety of me and my people, ensuring we survive until the end of this Holy Grail War. No problem, deal. Akira quickly made the modifications, and soon, a new contract was ready. This time, Garetsugu read it quickly, as Akira had only added a few clauses. Swish. After imprinting the golden soul crest, Garetsugu let out a long sigh of relief. This time, he had chosen to make a deal with a demon. With the interference of another worldly demon, where would the world flow now? Perhaps it would no longer be bound by the original fate? Since the contract has been signed, I'll go find the young Shiru now. That's right. Giritsugu wanted to pass his magical crest to Shiru Amiya. Originally, he had planned to let Shiru live an ordinary life. But now, he hoped his magical crest could give Shiru some help. Help to resist his own fate. Although the effect might be minimal, Shiru's fate should change somewhat. Alright, go handle your business. I have other matters to attend to as well. Akira smiled, stretched, and prepared to leave. Just then boom. A pillar of light shot into the sky from the direction of the Innsburn castle. Giritsugu and Saber rushed out of the room to see what was happening. That direction. The Innsburn castle. What's going on? Giritsugu frowned. If he remembered correctly, there were only 2 people left in the Innsburn castle now. The Holy Maiden and that thing Akira had left behind. Judging by the commotion, could it be that Jin and Akira's familiar had started fighting? However, before Giritsugu could react, another anomaly occurred on his side. Boom. Saber's body erupted with magical energy, instantly shattering the tatami beneath her. The magical energy swirled around Saber like a vortex. Saber. What's going on? Giritsugu could clearly feel that Saber was now much stronger than before. Just now, a channel to the world was briefly opened, and I established a connection with the Throne of Heroes. Then, I regained all my power. Saber clenched her small fist, now encased in armor. She didn't know why this anomaly had occurred. But she was happy. Because, Giritsugu, after my true body's power descended, I've severed my connection to the Throne of Heroes. From now on, I am completely free. Saber remembered Akira's words. To change the world, one must transcend it and draw power from beyond. To do that, one must first break free from Allah's constraints. Saber was different from other heroic spirits. When she was summoned, her true consciousness was connected to the moment of her death. So, when she participated in the Holy Grail War, she used her true consciousness. However, her true consciousness was still connected, meaning Saber wasn't truly present, she was still in a vessel's body. But now, all those restrictions had been lifted. On the other side, Giritsugu was also deep in thought. Why? Why would Allah do this? A world that's already been cut off, why would it send the true heroic spirits here? Isn't that just delivering them to their doom? As Giritsugu said, if Allah was simply sending the true heroic spirits here, it would indeed be delivering them to their doom. Sending the true heroic spirits was just a means for Allah to achieve its goal. Allah's true goal was to ensure that even if the world was swallowed by the dimensional rift, it wouldn't leave any benefits for the enemy. Even if it meant sacrificing heroic spirit fragments, Allah broke through the dimensional barrier and sent the true heroic spirits here. There were 2 reasons for this. On one hand, it could use the true heroic spirits to suppress the original world, forcing it to activate its self-destruction program. On the other hand, it could also use this to slightly restrain the original world, preventing it from being completely invaded. In places no one noticed, the restrictions preventing the world from being invaded had disappeared. The hands of the outer gods and the creatures in the dimensional rift began to stir. Meanwhile, as Saber regained her full power, Akira also heard the system's notification. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing a villain sign-in level, gold, sign-in type, stage event sign-in event, Holy Maiden collection, subdue Holy Maiden. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the reward, Holy Maiden Conqueror, when conquering targets with Holy Maiden traits, Holy Maiden attributes, or Holy Maiden personalities, you will receive a significant boost. When using the high-dimensional succubus bloodline to absorb the essence of a Holy Maiden heroine, your divine bloodline will be greatly enhanced. Before Akira could process what strange reward he had obtained just now, after the battle ended, Akira and Sikvera split up to handle their respective tasks. Akira negotiated the contract with Giritsugu and Saber, while Sikvera returned to the Innsburn castle to continue persuading Jin. Looking at the golden pillar of light from the Innsburn castle, Akira contacted Sikvera. Soon, Akira heard Sikvera's apologetic voice. I'm sorry, Akira, although Jin has absorbed the chess piece under my persuasion, it seems to have triggered Allah's contingency plan. Allah seemed to know that Jin might betray them, so they left a contingency plan on her. After absorbing your chess piece, Jin's rank collapsed, releasing a tremendous amount of power. Allah used Jin's position as a heroic spirit as a sacrifice to summon her true body from the Throne of Heroes. Moreover, during the summoning process, it seems Allah did something extra. But I can't determine what it did right now, so that's why Saber's power suddenly surged. Akira smiled. Things seemed to have gotten interesting. No wonder Saber's reward wasn't rainbow-colored. It was because her true body was sent here by Allah, increasing the difficulty. Sikvera, what exactly is going on when? Akira asked after organizing the information. The situation is bad. But there's still a way to save her, though the process is complicated. How complicated? Allah's contingency plan simultaneously destroyed Jan's soul and body. Although I tried my best to save her, the results were minimal. Earlier, when you cut off this world, it became one of the most secluded worlds in the DxD universe, so, before Jan's soul was completely destroyed, I guided it to the nearest DxD world for refuge. However, Jan's body was beyond saving. According to my speculation, Jan's soul will most likely attach to the person closest to her in the DxD world. That person is most likely a descendant of Jan from the DxD world. As long as we find the heroic spirit Jan in the DxD world, we can restore her soul. However, Jan's body is beyond recovery. Her body was used as a sacrifice for the cross-world summoning and was completely destroyed. I see. Akira smiled. Then, as expected, another system notification rang. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering a villain sign-in. Sign-in level, gold. Sign-in type, event sign-in. Sign-in event, Jan's resurrection. Requirement, find the heroic spirit Jan in the DxD world. Use the high-dimensional succubus bloodline to simultaneously absorb the essence of both the heroic spirit Jan and the heroic spirit Jan, and restore the destroyed body and soul of the heroic spirit Jan. Wait. The high-dimensional succubus bloodline has this function? Akira raised an eyebrow and re-established contact with Sikvera. Sikvera, don't worry. I have a way to restore Jan's body. As long as we find the heroic spirit Jan in the DxD world. As expected of you, Akira, Sikvera hadn't expected that even after recovering to this extent, Akira could still do things she couldn't. Truly, the chosen one selected by Mother. Meanwhile, in the DxD world, at the base of the volley team, the heroic spirit Jan of the DxD world was training with her companions. The two she was training with were Siegfried, also known as Sieg. Heracles, also known as Hercules. Siegfried was a master swordsman with a powerful body and numerous top-tier magical swords. He wielded the demon emperor sword Gram, the strongest demonic sword, Ba-Mung, Nothung, Tirfing, Dainsleif, and the Sword of Light. Using his demonic and divine demonic hands, Siegfried could wield all 6 swords with ease. Heracles possessed the Longinus Zenith Tempest, a powerful defensive and offensive weapon. Like Jan, he was a descendant of a legendary hero. They were all descendants who had inherited fragments of their ancestors' souls and abilities. However, judging by the fact that they had inherited fragments of their ancestors' souls but had different personalities, they were merely descendants of heroes, far from being the heroes themselves. Siegfried, Heracles, and Jan were the 3 with the best physical condition in the team, so they often sparred with each other. Beside them were Cao, Leonardo, and Georg. These 3 weren't close combat experts, but their individual threat level to gods and Buddhas far surpassed that of the 3 sparring. Because they were all users of top-tier Longinus. Among Longinus, there were primary and secondary ones. Even the boosted gear and divine dividing were only mid-tier Longinus. Any top-tier Longinus was a weapon capable of slaying gods. Cao, needless to say, was a descendant of the famous warlord from the 3 Kingdoms period. As the leader of the hero faction of the Chaos Brigade, Cao possessed the strongest Longinus True Longinus. Any Super Devil level opponent hit by the True Longinus would be defeated. A main god level opponent hit by it would lose at least 70% of their life, if not die outright. Cao only needed to figure out how to thrust the spear into a god's body, and the rest would be taken care of by the spear's power. Chapter 70, Jan's Evolution, Awakening the Feminine within the bespectacled young man beside Cao was named Georg. He held a position similar to that of a vice-captain in Cao's team. Georg was a descendant of Faust and possessed the top-tier Longinus, Dimension Lost. Dimension Lost could create an infinite mist centered around its user, capable of sealing all objects within it and even sending them to another dimension. It was the strongest support-type Longinus. Aside from his powerful Longinus, Georg himself was proficient in Norse magic, demonic magic, fallen angel magic, black magic, white magic, and spirit magic, making him a top-tier support specialist. The last young man, Leonardo, was a descendant of Leonardo da Vinci. He possessed one of the most dangerous Longinus, Innovate Clear, which allowed him to create various magical beasts based on his imagination. The stronger his imagination, the more powerful the creations. Although Innovate Clear was similar to Sword Birth and Blade Blacksmith in that they were all creation-type Longinus, its danger and power far surpassed the latter too. After all, magical swords and holy swords still required someone to wield them, but the magical beasts Leonardo created could act autonomously and were specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses of different races. In the original timeline, Leonardo had once created several tyrant beasts specifically designed to counter demons. Even the servants of the demon king Xerxes couldn't deal any effective damage to these beasts and could only slowly grind them down. In the original timeline, Greyfire, even if she wasn't at the level of a main god, was at least a super devil level powerhouse leading a group of devil king level experts. Yet, she could only barely hold her own against these tyrant beasts. And Leonardo had created several of these beasts at once. With just one person, he had achieved the feat of invading the underworld. In fact, this feat downplayed the power of Innovate Clear. Because, at that time, Leonardo was still a 13 or 14-year-old kid. His imagination and ability to use his longinus hadn't yet reached their peak. In the current timeline, these three were still growing. If they were allowed to fully mature, just these three alone could rival a medium to large pantheon, one main god and several super devils. After watching for a while, Cao stretched and picked up his spear. I should go down and give some guidance. Siegfried's skills are decent, but Heracles and Zhen. Can't these two remember that brute strength isn't everything? Even if they want to rely on brute strength, can't they at least combine it with some technique? As Cao was warming up, Georg suddenly looked up at the sky. Cao. Something strange seems to be happening. Something has entered the dimensional space I created. Huh? What is it? I don't know. I've never seen this kind of energy before. It's coming. It's heading our way. Before Georg could finish speaking, the thing had already descended. A golden light descended from outside the world and directly landed on Zhen. Zhen's armor transformed, and a banner with the emblem of a fleur-de-lis appeared. Wuxing grabbed the banner and firmly planted it into the ground. Huh? The girl, who had been acting on instinct with her eyes closed, seemed to realize that something was off. Whoosh, pulling the banner out of the ground, Zhen swung it with such force that it sent her companions flying. Zhen's companions were all shocked. Before they could react, boom. Zhen hurled the banner, breaking the sound barrier and knocking Siegfried's Demon Emperor sword Gram aside. The banner slammed into Siegfried's chest, sending him flying hundreds of meters. If the fleur-de-lis banner had been sharper, that attack would have been enough to instantly kill Siegfried. After all, Siegfried, as a swordsman, had relatively low durability. Zhen. What's wrong with you? Didn't you say your family's banner was just a bare pole? Even someone as dense as Heracles noticed that something was off with Zhen. But, because he was an idiot, he only found it strange that Zhen had pulled out a banner that wasn't just a bare pole. Realizing that Zhen wasn't acting normal, Heracles stopped holding back. Balance breaker. Superhuman malice wave. Countless cannons and barrels appeared behind Heracles. With a roar, Heracles unleashed a barrage of projectiles. Boom. 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 Facing the barrage, Zhen reached out, and the banner in the distance dissipated, instantly reappearing in her hand. Boom. With a loud crash, Zhen planted the banner into the ground, creating a golden barrier that perfectly blocked Heracles' projectiles. As the smoke cleared, Zhen stood unharmed, not even a speck of dust on her. Devil King level. Zhen has broken through to Devil King level? Georg adjusted his glasses, unable to hide his shock. Zhen's normal combat strength was only at the peak of the high-class Devil level. Only by forcibly activating her balance breaker could she barely reach Devil King level. But just now, after the golden light descended, Zhen had broken through the high-class Devil level and become a Devil King level powerhouse. And not just an ordinary Devil King. A newly promoted ordinary Devil King couldn't have easily knocked back Siegfried, who wielded the Demon Emperor sword. Although Siegfried's body wasn't at Devil King level, the Demon Emperor sword in his hand was a top-tier weapon capable of rivaling a Devil King. No matter what's happening, we need to stop Zhen's rampage first. This is interesting. Let me handle it. Cao stopped Georg, who was about to intervene, and jumped down himself. Clang. With a light sound, Cao's spear clashed with Zhen's fleur-de-lis banner. Cao didn't fare much better than Siegfried, being sent flying back dozens of meters before he could steady himself. After stopping, Cao raised his head. Such brute force. Zhen's strength has increased by at least several dozen times. If it weren't for the shock-absorbing properties of his true longinus, that strike would have shattered the meridians in his arm. Clang. 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 The banner danced, and the spear swung. Cao tested Zhen's strength. Soon, he came to a conclusion. Interesting. The strength of Zhen's banner has surpassed that of ordinary sacred gears and is on the verge of becoming a longinus. Aside from the powerful weapon, Zhen's own attributes are solidly at Devil King level. If she can reach Devil King level without using her balance breaker, then after activating it, she might be able to rival a super devil. Even her last weakness, lack of technique, seems to have been completely remedied. Cao was right. Zhen had indeed become stronger. The true heroic spirit Zhen's body originally had Devil King level combat strength. After absorbing the soul fragments from her descendant, Zhen's rank evolved again, reaching the peak of Devil King level. Moreover, her combat skills had also improved. When the heroic spirit Zhen possessed her descendant, she combined her own combat skills with those of her descendant, naturally resulting in exquisite technique. Meanwhile, in Fuyuki City, in the world of fate, in the house where Shiru had lived in his previous life, Fukiritsugu Emiya let out a sigh of relief and opened the door. Just now, he had completed the transfer of his magic crest. From now on, he had lost his time altar and the magic crest that had helped him so much. But, creak, the door opened. The heroic spirit Emiya, also known as Archer, walked out of the room. After transplanting the magic crest to the young Shiru, Archer had immediately possessed him. He was a pure employee of Illa, so his descent was a routine matter for him. Invader of the world. The heroic spirit Emiya stared intently at Akira. However, he only stared and didn't take any further action. Because he had already completely severed his connection with Illa, thoroughly shaking off his identity as a wage slave. From now on, he planned to continue possessing his younger self, observing whether this world could truly break free from its predetermined fate. As for companions, that would depend on who they were. After all, the person before him was the one who had forcibly cut off a portion of the world from Illa. The impact of a world-level existence on a heroic spirit was too great. Previously, he had only known about the world where Illa and Gaia resided. Even parallel worlds were just variations of that world. But now, he had witnessed the existence of a true other world and realized that this world was moving closer to another world. In this situation, both he and this world had become like drifting duckweed. His previously endless work life had gained new possibilities, stirring ripples in the heroic spirit Emiya's heart. What exactly was another world like? Was another world itself bound by so-called fate? Could this demon named Akira change fate because of his identity as another worlder? Or was it because of his own uniqueness? If one broke free from their original fate, would they fall into a new quagmire of fate? The heroic spirit Emiya didn't know the answers to these questions. He only knew that both he and this world were heading toward an unknown future. Alright, how should I complete the contract? Kiritsugu asked directly. It's simple. Just don't resist. Akira handed Kiritsugu a transparent jewel. As the jewel glowed brightly, Kiritsugu felt a cool sensation in his hand. He felt something inside him being absorbed. As that thing was absorbed, the magical circuits he had inherited from his parents rapidly weakened. That thing must be what the demon king Leviathan called fate. Soon, the absorption was complete. The jewel turned black and white, and Kiritsugu's energy dropped significantly. Demon King Leviathan, in that case. Kiritsugu's voice was weak. Then the contract is complete. I will fulfill the contract. Akira reached out and tossed Kiritsugu a chaos-colored jewel. This jewel was something Akira had created himself, with functions similar to Greyfire's jewel. After handling Kiritsugu's side of things, Akira turned his attention to Saber. Soon, under Akira's guidance, Saber and he arrived at a secluded open area. Along the way, to test his theory, Akira took the initiative to hold Saber's small hand. The soft, delicate hand made it hard for Akira to imagine that this was the same hand that wielded the holy sword that saved the world. You! What are you doing? Saber instinctively tried to pull away, but considering she needed Akira's help. As Akira had expected, after some conditioning and a few tricks, Saber had not only developed a subconscious obedience and submission to him but was also showing signs of awakening the feminine within her. I'm just doing some practice, Ms. Saber, Akira said with a light smile. If you can't even handle this, how can we proceed to the step of absorbing your essence? Saber fell silent. Indeed, Akira had already shown his sincerity and was even planning to take her on a journey through time and space. If she couldn't even handle holding hands, how could they proceed to the next step? How could she change the past of Britain? After mentally preparing herself, Saber made up her mind and took the initiative to hold Akira's hand. Saber was an innocent maiden and didn't know that there were many small actions one could do while holding hands, such as caressing palms or playing with fingers. However, Saber's innocence had a different effect on Akira. Flirting while holding hands wasn't suitable for the noble and pure Saber. What Akira wanted was this very innocence. Chapter 71, Time-Space Travel, Intercepting the Delivery. And so, Akira, holding Saber's hand, slowly walked toward a secluded area. Along the way, Saber felt an emotion she had never experienced before. This feeling, an unprecedented surge of excitement and nervousness, made Saber's face visibly flush, resembling a ripe, tempting red apple. As Akira held her hand, Saber's expression resembled that of a flustered young girl experiencing her first love. Ever since she had drawn the sacred sword, she hadn't felt such youthful emotions in a long time. Fondness. Saber's fondness for Akira stemmed from the fact that he had saved Ilya. The effects of Akira's high-dimensional succubus bloodline were potent. If there was even one thing someone liked about him, it would inevitably evolve into affection for him personally. Saber had been steadily growing fonder of Akira. Even if she found him despicable due to his teasing, her fondness for him never decreased, it just stopped increasing. What truly caused Saber's affection for Akira to skyrocket was his honest business practices. Akira had truthfully told Saber that he possessed a method to alter the past and even invited her to witness it firsthand. Moreover, he had explained to her how to absorb fate energy. By fully absorbing the fate energy of a specific individual, one could travel back to a crucial moment in that person's past. As for the method of fully absorbing fate energy, for males, it required sacrificing all their abilities, while for females, it involved forming a bond with Akira. When Saber first learned of this, she was utterly stunned. Why is it different for men and women? Isn't his discrimination against women? But after Akira explained it to her in vivid detail, Saber realized she couldn't refute his logic. Isn't it the same in ancient wars? The men of defeated nations become slaves, second-class citizens, or are slaughtered. The women, however, become resources for the victors. This principle exists between nations, in hell, and even beyond this world. In summary, after learning that Akira had a method to travel to the past, Saber's fondness for him had already increased significantly. Coupled with the revelation that the condition for time-space travel was intimacy with Akira and the absorption of fate energy, Saber's girlish side was awakened. Though she wasn't about to fall in love with Akira, she certainly felt the fondness of a close friend. And with the added certainty that her affection for him would never decrease, Akira had finally achieved his goal. Step by step, through intimate contact and gradually lowering her defenses, he would eventually devour the noble king of nights whole. Arriving in the wilderness, Akira extended his hand, and the fate shifter materialized. After embedding the black and white gemstones of Geritsugu Emiya into its core, the fate shifter began to emanate a swirling energy of black and white. The energy flowed from the fate shifter into Akira's chest, activating his dimensional energy and causing a strange transformation within him. So, using the fate shifter requires my dimensional energy as a foundation. It seems my abilities are quite extraordinary. As he felt the changes within himself, Akira extended his hand to Saber. Saber, shall we go? As the seller, it's my responsibility to explain the effects of the product to the buyer. I understand. Saber nodded and took Akira's hand, sitting close to him. This time, she wasn't as reserved as before, though she still felt a bit shy. Once they were settled, Akira pressed the activation button. Let's go. Ding. Fate shifting has begun. Fate target, Geritsugu Emiya. Selecting time nodes for travel. Ding. Time node selected. Please choose the time node to travel to. Time node 1, birth. Time node 2, killing his father, Norakata Emiya. Time node 3, inheriting his father's magic crest and becoming an assassin. Time node 4, killing his mentor, Natalia. Time node 5, marrying into the Insburn family and participating in the Fourth Holy Grail War. Each time node can only be selected once. Please choose carefully. Even the time of his birth is an option? Then let's choose the time of his birth. Since they were traveling to the past, Akira naturally wanted to go as far back as possible. Ding. Time node 1, birth. Selection complete. Fate shifting has begun. Time node set as follows: Norakata Emiya, a magus designated for sealing by the Mages Association, was being pursued by them. However, even while on the run, Norakata followed the ancient traditions of Magi and found a suitable vessel to bear a child who could inherit his magic crest. Today is the day Geritsugu Emiya is born. Whoosh, in the dimensional rift, Akira and Saber's figures vanished, traveling back into the past. Ding. Time node 1, birth. Shift complete. Specific time node, after Geritsugu Emiya's birth. Remaining time, 24 hours. The fate shifter stopped operating, and Akira and Saber stepped out, observing their surroundings. Akira, where is this? Saber looked around curiously. She was certain they had traveled to a different time and space. After all, she had lost her connection to the Holy Grail. Is this the time when Geritsugu was just born? Why did we come here? Because if we're going to prepare, the earlier, the better. Come on, Saber, let's go make some preparations. With that, a teleportation circle appeared beneath Akira's feet. Saber pursed her lips and, with practiced ease, took Akira's hand. The two vanished together. On a small island in Southeast Asia, Akira used Geritsugu's memories to locate the island where he had grown up. The island was called Aminago Island. At this time, Norakata Emiya had not yet arrived on the island. Akira spent half a day on the island, leaving behind 2 items, a cross and a chaotic-colored gemstone. The cross possessed a certain healing ability. Though not extremely powerful, it could increase a human's natural healing speed by several dozen times. Every time the cross was used, the image of Akira would appear in the user's mind. Inside the chaotic gemstone, Akira had stored knowledge related to agriculture and animal husbandry. To avoid causing too much disruption, he didn't include any information about magecraft or rituals. In the remaining half of the day, Akira took care of a few other matters. For example, he sought out a certain eye-patch-wearing girl named Claudia. He also found an old family in Fuiuki City, one with ties to the underworld. And so on. Soon, another half-day passed. After the 24 hours were up, Akira and Saber boarded the Fate Shifter once more. Ding. Time node 2, killing his father, Norakata Emiya. Selection complete. Fate shifting has begun. Time node set as follows: Norakata Emiya, a magus designated for sealing, was on the run with his son, Garetsugu. Eventually, they settled on a small island in Southeast Asia. This peaceful period left Garetsugu with warm, unforgettable memories. Shirley, a quiet girl living on a Minigo island, helped the father and son settle in, treating Garetsugu like a younger brother. She often assisted Norakata with his research. However, the peace was soon shattered. Norakata's experiments on becoming a dead apostle went awry, turning Shirley into a ghoul. This attracted the attention of the Holy Church's executors and the Mages Association's enforcers. The island's inhabitants were slaughtered. Garetsugu, realizing his father was the cause of the disaster, shot and killed the man he deeply loved. Ding. Time node 2, killing his father, Norakata Emiya. Shift complete. Specific time node, Shirley's infection and the spread of the virus. Remaining time, 24 hours. Akira soon arrived on the island again. However, the island was now in chaos. Thanks to the agricultural knowledge Akira had left behind, the island had developed well. But there was one significant difference. In the island's church, there was now a statue of Akira. Since the islanders saw Akira's image every time they used the healing cross, they had naturally come to worship him as a deity. Akira shook his head and erased the statue's facial features, leaving only a vague resemblance. He didn't want to openly compete with the god of the Bible for worship, at least, not overtly. However, as Akira modified the statue, something unexpected happened. A surge of energy from the statue flowed into Akira's body, forming a golden droplet within him. So this is the power of faith? Akira immersed his consciousness into it and heard the prayers of the islanders. "O great deity! Please bless my husband's fishing trip. Deity, may this year's harvest be as bountiful as last year's. Deity, I hope to find a good partner, preferably one who resembles you." Huh? That last one seems a bit off. Akira decided to investigate who had made such a bold prayer. Soon, a tanned, black-haired beauty came into view. Shirley. This was unexpected. Akira had left the statue to increase his influence and further his plans, but Shirley had become a devout worshipper. "Deity. If you truly exist, please save me. And this island. Akira, let's go." A teleportation circle appeared beneath his feet. Ah. Oh, okay. Before Saber could react, she and Akira vanished. Soon, near Norakata's house, Akira found Shirley, who had just infected several people. However, since the house was not in the center of the village, the ghoul virus hadn't spread widely yet. "Akira, let me handle this. I can heal her." A Guman emerged from their contract, volunteering to help. "Alright, give it a try." Akira raised an eyebrow. Though he was confident he could handle it, he didn't refuse a Guman's offer. Whoosh! A Guman raised his hand, and golden light particles flew out. Shirley writhed in pain as the light enveloped her, but she soon calmed down as the treatment reached its final stage. The ghoul virus was purged, and Shirley returned to being human. "I'll handle the others too." A Guman flew off to heal the other infected individuals. In his eyes, since these people were Akira's followers, it was his duty to help them. Ah! Shirley's eyes fluttered open. Seeing the boy before her, her eyes widened in shock. "You're the deity? The deity really exists?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she recalled her desperate prayer before losing consciousness. "The deity heard my prayer and came to save me. Shirley, will you come with me?" Akira extended his hand. "Huh? Deity, you mean?" Shirley swallowed hard. "Yes, I need you. Will you stay by my side from now on?" Akira did need Shirley both to test the Fate Shifter's capabilities and for his own personal reasons. After all, every bit of Fate energy helped him grow stronger. Chapter 72, The Maiden Who Serves the Deity. Saber is stunned. "Yes. I'm willing." Shirley didn't hesitate for even a moment before agreeing to Akira's invitation. It was only after she agreed that she realized something else. "Wait. Deity. Did I bite anyone after I turned into a ghoul?" Her eyes were filled with unprecedented tension as she asked this question. She soon got her answer. "You did. Ah. Then we need to hurry back to the village and warn everyone." Shirley immediately panicked. "There's no need to rush. I've already sent someone to handle it. It'll be resolved soon." As soon as Akira finished speaking, A golden light flew back from the distance and returned to the contract on his hand. Akira, I've already purified all the ghouls and restored them to normal. Akira trusted Agumon more than he trusted himself. After all, Agumon always managed to surprise him with new tricks. The same went for Agumon. She had thought that being the pinnacle of two worlds was already extraordinary, but Akira always pulled out abilities she couldn't even comprehend. Akira nodded and turned to Shirley. It's resolved. Everyone has been restored. Thank you, deity. I knew. You've always been watching over us. Tears welled up in Shirley's eyes as she hugged Akira, her emotions overflowing. Saber, standing to the side, silently watched all of this. At first glance, it didn't seem like a big deal, just a hug. But why did she feel so irritated? As Akira felt Shirley's figure, he placed a hand on her forehead. I'm going to show you something. Don't be too shocked. I came here to prevent this future. This is... Shirley's eyes rolled back as she received a flood of memories in her mind. Ghouls, blood, death, the church, slaughter. And then... nothing. All the islanders turned into ghouls and were exterminated. This is... the original future of this island? A single tear unconsciously rolled down Shirley's cheek. A golden thread flew out from Shirley and merged into the droplet of faith energy in Akira's mind. The purity of this thread of faith surpasses all previous faith energy. By the way, deity. Shirley blushed for a moment, then mustered the courage to step forward while Akira was absorbing the faith energy. Mwah! With a soft sound, Shirley leaned in and planted a shy kiss on Akira's cheek. I once made a wish to become a maiden who serves the deity. Deity, since you're planning to take us with you, can I stay by your side forever? Shirley's face was a mix of shyness and determination. After receiving the memories of the original timeline from Akira, Shirley had made up her mind to stay by the deity's side and serve him faithfully. Even if it was only in small ways, she wanted to repay the deity for saving her life. Most women are like this. If their savior is handsome and powerful, they'll offer themselves in gratitude. But if the savior is ugly and weak, they'll only promise to repay the debt in their next life. Akira gently caressed Shirley's face. It was worth it. The cross he had left at Shirley's home had finally borne fruit. Of course, you can stay by my side. Speaking of which, Shirley, there's something you can do to help me right now. Akira scooped up the tanned, youthful girl in his arms, and a teleportation circle lit up beneath his feet. The seed he had planted long ago had grown strong, and now it was time to harvest. Hey! We're not done here yet. Saber was completely stunned. What the hell? Is this really the time for this? Saber's voice was loud, but neither Akira nor Shirley seemed to hear her. That damn demon king. He must have set up a soundproof barrier. Do men really think about nothing but this? Save a beautiful girl and demand she offers herself in return? Saber couldn't understand the male mindset. All she knew was that she was furious, and the consequences would be severe. He had promised to show her the effects of altering the timeline, but halfway through, Akira ran off to flirt with a girl? No, wait. Actually, his goal from the start was probably to flirt. Saber recalled the condition for Akira to absorb her fate energy, her face flushing red as she grew even angrier. Just as she was fuming, a voice echoed in Saber's mind. Saber, don't worry. Agumon will handle the rest. Huh? Saber's eyes twitched. Akira hadn't spoken, so why did she hear his voice? Saber quickly checked her body and noticed the golden glow of the Holy Lance's mark on Avalon. When she came to her senses, she saw two lights, one black and one gold, fly out from Akira. The golden light transformed into Agumon. As for the black light, it turned into someone Saber was all too familiar with. A giant sea demon? Well, not exactly giant anymore, but it was undoubtedly the same sea demon from before. It even looked exactly the same. Looking at the writhing, starfish-dragon hybrid, Saber instinctively felt uncomfortable. She had almost forgotten. Akira was a demon king. Though he was handsome and didn't seem evil, his race was that of a demon. He was the legendary Leviathan. Does Akira, as a demon king, have the ability to control those he kills? Saber couldn't help but wonder. As Saber pondered, Agumon got to work. Whoosh! A massive magic circle spread out beneath Agumon's feet, enveloping the entire village. Soon, the circle completed its scan of the area. Rise! Agumon chanted softly, and the circle began to glow. In an instant, the entire village disappeared from the map. In its place was nothing but a massive crater. Material generation initiating. Over the next few seconds, the crater was gradually filled. Saber, lifted into the air by the glow, watched all of this unfold, completely stunned. Is this moving the island and then creating a new world with data? Is the world being created a data world or a real one? Saber's brain couldn't process such complex questions, So she simply concluded Agumon was amazing. After all, the holy lance that Agumon had transformed into was a terrifying weapon capable of leaving marks on Avalon. It made sense that she was this powerful. Agumon noticed Saber's confusion and explained. Saber, I'm fulfilling Akira's request to move all the islanders into his dimensional space. Won't this cause a huge temporal disturbance? Could it have a major impact on the future? It will indeed have a significant impact. Even with the world's corrective forces, altering too much could drastically change the future. To avoid irreversible consequences like certain people Akira cares about dying prematurely due to historical changes, we need to limit the impact. Fortunately, the people on this island were fated to die. So, taking them away won't cause too much disruption. As Agumon spoke, she completed the reconstruction of the island. Thud, the sea demon landed on the ground and began to split apart. What's this? Saber looked at Agumon again. This sea demon will split into smaller entities, making the village appear as if it was invaded by an otherworldly evil god. Soon, under Agumon's modifications, the split sea demons grew more human-like features. I see. By doing this, you're digging a hole and filling it yourself. Altering history while also restoring it. So, the islanders, did you store them away? Saber asked curiously. That's right. Agumon nodded. This is where Akira first collected faith energy. It holds great significance. Agumon looked up at the sky and began the final step, awakening Kiritsugu Emiya, who had just been purified. Then, she would make him witness the destruction of the island. Meanwhile, Akira was enjoying the fruits of his labor. Shirley's flavor was unique. Her tan skin and youthful innocence gave Akira a novel experience unlike anything he had before. Though Shirley appeared sunny and pure, once she started moving her hips, she was both shy and wild. Soon, Akira's dimensional energy surged, washing through Shirley's body and gradually enhancing her level and potential. Feeling the deity's overwhelming presence within her, Shirley curled her toes, her eyes rolling back as tears of sincerity and passion streamed down her face. Ding, detected fate energy absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated. Fate energy target Shirley. Ding. Fate energy absorption successful. Host level increased by 3. Current level, 173, Meteor high-class demon. While using his dimensional energy to enhance Shirley's potential, Akira also absorbed her fate energy. A 3 level increase wasn't much, considering Shirley was just an ordinary girl with no magical talent and little screen time. However, Akira had grown fond of Shirley. Perhaps it was because she was the first girl to worship him as a deity, giving him a sense of novelty he'd never felt before. Who wouldn't love a beautiful girl who called you deity and was willing to devote everything to you? And so, Akira spent the entire day intimately connecting with Shirley. That night, after some time had passed, the church's executors and bounty hunters finally arrived on the scene. Boom. Flames lit up the sky. Kiritsugu Emiya ran through the village, desperately searching for survivors. But he couldn't find anyone. Everyone had turned into monsters. Bang. 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 Several gunshots rang out, and a few monsters fell. It seems I arrived too late. A sharp-eyed woman with short, light blue hair approached Kiritsugu, her tone tinged with pity. If you keep sitting there, you'll soon become one of them. Natalia shook her head, warning him. What? What's going on? The young Kiritsugu couldn't help but ask. What's going on, huh? Natalia stuffed her hands in her pockets and explained the situation to Kiritsugu. Soon, Kiritsugu understood the cause of everything. Why had Shirley turned into that? Why had everyone on the island become monsters? It was all because of his father, Norakata Emiya. The magus who caused this disaster should be somewhere on this island. Do you have any clues? Natalia asked, somewhat surprised. From the boy's reaction, it was clear he knew something. Soon, just like in the original timeline, Kiritsugu sought out his father. For justice. For the world. To prevent his father from causing further harm. He had to be resolute. Natalia was about to follow Kiritsugu to see what was happening, but the next moment, a hand landed on her shoulder. Who's there? Natalia immediately leaped forward. Someone had snuck up on her without her noticing? She quickly turned to look behind her. Then, the most handsome young man she had ever seen came into view. So handsome. Even someone as experienced as Natalia was momentarily captivated by his looks. However, she quickly snapped out of it. A boy with such a unique aura in the middle of a disaster zone. Could he be the mastermind behind all of this? No. That's not it. Natalia quickly dismissed her earlier thought. Because she noticed the little girl standing beside Akira. In the end, she concluded that Akira was just a strange man taking a little girl on a mission. Aside from his good looks, he probably wasn't much of a threat. Chapter 73, Little Mia Hisaw, Saber's Taste. Natalia Kaminsky, The famous bounty hunter, Akira spoke slowly. Oh? You know my name? What, are you here to compete for the bounty? Natalia's hand moved closer to her holster. Natalia, do you know what kind of people need money? Akira smiled and shook his head. The poor, Natalia answered. Exactly. The poor need money. What the rich need, money can't buy. So, I want to make 2 deals with you. One deal will give you what the poor desire. The other will give you what the rich desire. What kind of deals? Natalia narrowed her eyes. The young man in front of her gave off a dangerous vibe. However, she had dealt with too many dangerous people in her line of work. Though this young man was unique, she didn't mind. First, there's her. Akira pushed the little girl standing beside him forward. Her name is Mihisa. I want you to train her to be self-sufficient. Just use your usual methods. Puff. Natalia exhaled a cloud of smoke. You want me to train her to be a bounty hunter? Why? Natalia didn't understand why Akira wanted her to train the girl. Wouldn't it be better if he did it himself? Or did he have some ulterior motive? Because I don't have the time, so I can only entrust her to someone else. As he spoke, Akira pointed forward. Ding 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 ding, countless gold and silver ornaments, antiques, and paintings fell from the sky. Though the gold and silver were tempting, what caught Natalia's attention was the cross floating in the air. This is... Natalia gave a questioning look. Consider this a bonus. This cross has healing properties. As long as the injury isn't immediately fatal, it can slowly heal it. After all, I don't want to come back and find me missing an arm or a leg. Akira said, patting the little girl's head to soothe her anxious heart. This little Mihisa was someone Akira had picked up from the battlefield. Even after calming her for half a day, she was still shaken. His a healing artifact that can even regenerate lost limbs? Fine. I agree. Natalia responded firmly. With such a reward, not only would she take care of a child, she'd even bear one if necessary. By the way, when will you be back? Natalia asked. I'll be back before you die. And when that time comes, as payment for saving your life, I want you to become mine. That's the second deal. The content of the deal is... life. Huh? So you're saying I'm destined to die an unnatural death? Natalia couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Exactly. For a bounty hunter, dying an unnatural death is pretty common. Akira nodded. Alright, Natalia sighed. But how can you be sure you make it back before I die? Do you have the ability to foresee the future? I do have the ability to foresee the future. Then can you tell me if I'll retire safely? Never mind, don't answer. I already know the result. Natalia forced a smile. I'll agree to this deal. If you really can save me when I'm on the brink of death, I won't have anything to say. Compared to becoming someone else's possession, I value my life more. Natalia signed the contract without hesitation. After years of living on the edge, she knew the value of this contract. The contract is complete. I should be going now. Seeing Natalia sign the contract, Akira's feet glowed with the light of a teleportation circle. Before leaving, Akira left a few final words. Natalia, I think you're quite charming while I'm gone. Take good care of yourself. Don't let the value of what I've gained through the contract decrease. Oh, and one more thing. To prevent you from getting new scars, I've added a new spell to the cross. It can heal scars. Not just new scars, but even old ones. Like the scar under your arm, or the ones on your lower back, inner thighs. Before he could finish listing examples, Akira's figure completely vanished. Hearing Akira's words, Natalia's usually cold and composed face showed a rare hint of embarrassment. That bastard. Akira knew where all her scars were, which meant he had already seen her completely naked. Though she cursed him, her body was honest. As soon as Akira left, she began using the cross to heal her scars. Though she had a tough exterior, she wasn't a lesbian. She still had a girlish side, though she rarely had time to indulge it. Waves of tingling sensations spread through her body, causing Natalia to let out a few soft moans. Every time she healed a scar, she could vividly imagine Akira's face. And every time she imagined him, she remembered that he had seen her naked. That bastard. So, while healing, Natalia continued to curse Akira in her mind. When she finally came to her senses, Natalia immediately checked the results. Looking at her smooth, tender thigh skin, Natalia couldn't help but reach out and touch it. So soft. Soon, Natalia had healed all her scars. Charming, huh? This was the first time Natalia had been called charming by a man, especially one as handsome and extraordinary as Akira. For a moment, her heart fluttered. Thinking about it, Natalia shook her head. Truthfully, she didn't mind being with a younger man, and Akira happened to fall within her preferred range. It's just a shame. His personality is too terrible. But he does give off a strong sense of security. After all, Women are drawn to strong men who can make them feel safe, right? In the end. I'm still a woman with mixed feelings. Natalia opened the door to deal with Garrett Sugu's aftermath. Huh? Garrett Sugu looked at the cold and composed woman in front of him. Was it his imagination? Why did she seem more feminine now? On the other side, after dealing with Mia and Natalia, Akira found Saber. Let's go, Saber. Let's witness the results of the experiment. Let's see how the world changes under our influence. Alright, let's go. After a few seconds of hesitation, Saber finally took Akira's hand. Those few seconds were her silent protest against Akira flirting with Shirley in front of her. Saber, don't you think you're becoming cuter and more feminine? Akira smiled lightly, gripping Saber's hand tightly, almost enveloping it completely. Humphrey. Saber snorted. Making a proud female king change for you, even offering her body and heart, isn't that exactly what you wanted? Saber was aware of her own changes. However, she had expected this and was prepared to accept it. At most. She felt a bit conflicted. Saber, has anyone ever told you that the King of Knights doesn't understand human hearts? Akira asked with a smile. Yes, Saber's expression darkened slightly. Whether it was during her reign or the Holy Grail War, people had told her that. At the time, she didn't fully understand what it meant. But now, Saber felt she could grasp part of its meaning. Do you think they were right? Akira asked. They were right, Saber pursed her lips. Exactly, they were right, Akira nodded. If the King of Knights doesn't even understand the most basic emotions like love, how could she possibly understand human hearts? Without understanding human hearts, it's impossible to create policies that align with human nature. Policies that don't align with human nature will inevitably struggle to steer a troubled nation back on track. To be a king, one needs more than just nobility and strength. One must also understand human nature. Saber. Don't you agree? As he spoke, Akira reached out with his other hand and lifted Saber's chin. Saber felt a tickling sensation but didn't say anything, simply rolling her eyes at Akira. Shouldn't understanding human nature come from humans? But you're a demon king, not a human. Saber pouted and retorted. Seeing Saber learning to retort, Akira smiled even wider. Saber, you're right. Demons might not have human nature. But demons are the ones who understand human nature the best. That's how they deceive so many humans, isn't it? So, you're saying I've been deceived by you, is that it? Not exactly deceived. After all, our contract is an equal exchange. An equal exchange, huh? Saber admitted, it really was an equal exchange. Now, Akira had shown her miracles even the Holy Grail couldn't achieve, leaving her with no room to refuse. It was Akira who showed her the existence of worlds beyond her own. It was Akira who made her realize that only by defying the world could history be changed. So, Saber, since I've shown my sincerity, shouldn't you show yours as well? My sincerity? Saber looked into Akira's eyes and saw amusement, pleasure, and possessiveness. Before she could say anything, Saber's lips were captured by Akira. The golden-haired, green-eyed girl's eyes widened in surprise, then she closed them after a few seconds, resigned. As he said, learning about love is part of understanding human nature. He definitely won't allow me to learn from anyone else, so my only teacher is him. Saber successfully convinced herself with this reasoning. Then, she reached out with her armored hands and hugged Akira's broad back. A man's back is indeed broader than a woman's. With that final thought, Saber's mind went blank, lost in the intimate exchange. Akira was deeply intoxicated by Saber's taste. Holding Saber, Akira activated the fate shifter once more. Ding. Time node 2, killing mentor Natalia. Selection complete. Fate shifting has begun. Time node set as follows: during an assassination mission, Garrett Sugu and his mentor Natalia pursued a dangerous magus known as the Wasp user, who was researching zombie viruses. On a passenger plane, Natalia succeeded in the assassination but accidentally released magical wasps from the corpse, turning all 300 passengers into ghouls except for Natalia Kaminsky. Garrett Sugu, coordinating from the ground, managed to acquire a surface-to-air missile from New York's black market. To prevent further tragedy, he shot down the plane before it could land, sending it crashing into the Atlantic Ocean. Natalia died. Ding. Time node 3, shift complete. Specific time node, Natalia boards the plane to complete the mission but discovers the target's corpse has a failsafe, turning all passengers into ghouls. Remaining time, 24 hours. In a flash of light, Akira and Saber traveled through time once more. After the world shifted, Saber finally recovered enough to push Akira away. Huff. Saber's chest heaved, her fair, delicate face flushed with embarrassment. The feeling of being overwhelmed and the tingling sensations had left her intoxicated. How was it? Akira asked with a smile. Not great. Saber bit her lip, lying through her teeth. Is that so? I'm so happy to hear that, Saber. Akira shook his head with a smile. Why? Saber asked, confused. Because you've finally learned to lie. Not just withholding information, but saying something completely contrary to the truth while knowing the facts. Your progress makes me very happy. But let's stop here for now. On one hand, I'm a man who honors contracts. Payment first, then delivery. On the other hand, Saber, your taste has left me intoxicated. I prefer to savor good things slowly. Anyway, stay here for now. I'll go out for a bit and come back to share what changes have occurred. Without waiting for Saber's reply, Akira teleported away. Chapter 74, World Line Shift. King Arthur understands human hearts. Saber watched as Akira disappeared, her eyes filled with a hint of dissatisfaction. That bastard. His personality is still as terrible as ever. He just teased her and then ran off. Wait. Saber suddenly remembered something. Last time he left my side, it was because he wanted to get close to that woman, Medea. This time, it wouldn't be the same, would it? Saber's internal alarm bells rang loudly. Although she and Akira weren't lovers and only had a transactional relationship, it still bothered her. A man who could say I really like you 1 second and then go find another woman the next was truly despicable. But he was right. Even if I had the chance to go back in time, if I didn't learn how to govern a country, I would just repeat the same mistakes. If no one else could pull the sword from the stone, Britain would likely fall sooner. I must learn what it means to understand human hearts. Saber swore to herself she was absolutely only focused on learning about human hearts and definitely not complaining about how short their time together had been. Yes. She swore it firmly. On the other side of the world, aboard a plane, Natalia was in a life-or-death crisis. In her mission to hunt down the magician known as the Wasp Master, Odd Bolzak, Natalia had boarded this passenger plane. Although she had successfully killed Odd, she hadn't anticipated his final trap. After his death, Odd's wasp familiars went berserk, attacking the passengers one after another. The plane's cabin quickly turned into a living hell, overrun by ghouls. Natalia did her best to survive, barely managing to escape to the cockpit and locking the ghouls out. Just moments ago, she had finished communicating with Garrett Suguamiya. From his tone, she could tell what he was planning. That brat. He's probably going to shoot this plane down, isn't he? That's just like him. Thankfully, Mia isn't on this plane with me. If she died too, I wouldn't be able to face him. Natalia lit a cigarette, reminiscing about her short but eventful life. As she felt the countdown to her death, she thought of that boy, Akira. Honestly, Akira is the most handsome man I've ever met. It's just a shame his personality is so terrible. Though he was a scoundrel, Natalia couldn't deny that Akira was incredibly good-looking. It was a bit embarrassing to admit, but she had a bit of a thing for younger men. She preferred them over older men. Wait. Didn't he say he came to make a deal with me before I died? Natalia finally remembered the deal she had made with Akira. Over the years, thanks to the healing cross, she had lived a relatively peaceful life, far removed from death. She had almost forgotten about that deal. As she was reminiscing, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice suddenly echoed in her ears. Natalia, since you're about to die, how about fulfilling our contract before you go? Leaving behind your genetic legacy before death is the instinct of all living beings. That voice. Natalia instantly turned around. She would never mistake that voice. When she turned, she saw the face she hadn't seen in so long. Whoosh! A golden light emanated from Akira's body, instantly purifying the air in the cockpit. Even the bloodstains and signs of battle disappeared without a trace. Natalia was stunned for a moment before finally calming down. You came? Yes, I'm here. So, according to your prediction, today is my day to die? Natalia sighed and asked. Correct. All right, I understand. Natalia stubbed out her cigarette on the cockpit seat. After extinguishing it, she looked up at Akira with determination in her eyes. As you said, when faced with death, the instinct of all living beings is to reproduce. So. As she spoke, Natalia unbuttoned her shirt, revealing a light blue bra. Thanks to the healing cross, all her scars had been removed, leaving her skin smooth and flawless. So what? Akira wasn't in a hurry. He simply watched Natalia with a calm expression. You really have a terrible personality, Natalia muttered, knowing full well that Akira wanted her to say it out loud. After taking a deep breath, Natalia finally spoke. So, Akira, it's time to fulfill the contract we agreed upon. Indeed. Akira smiled with satisfaction and pulled Natalia into his arms. As a demon, fulfilling a contractor's request is my duty. Humphrey. Natalia, now just centimeters away from Akira, decided to take revenge. She wasn't going to bear him 100 children to exhaust him to death. No, she had a more direct method. As Akira was enjoying the taste of Natalia's cigarette-tinged lips, she suddenly bit down hard. However, crunch. Ouch. Natalia's teeth met an unyielding force, causing her to wince in pain. Seeing how vengeful Natalia was, Akira couldn't help but laugh. It seemed she was really upset about him making her say it out loud. Alright, enough playing around. With that, Akira moved closer, fulfilling the contract with Natalia. Natalia let out a soft moan, the most girlish sound she had ever made in her life. Ding. Detected energy absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated. Energy absorption target Natalia. Ding. Energy absorption successful. Host level increased by 7. Current level, 180. Materia high-class demon. As Akira and Natalia's contract was fulfilled, the plane in the sky began to fly erratically. It ascended, descended, veered left and right, accelerated, and decelerated, constantly changing its flight pattern. The cockpit was in chaos. Natalia, leaning against a pilot's seat, struggled to adjust the plane's trajectory while accommodating Akira's movements. Every change in the plane's movement caused her to lose her balance, but Akira always gently helped her back up. Do you really have to do it like this? Natalia asked, her face flushed. This was her first time experiencing such a unique form of aerial activity. Demons truly were something else, coming up with things no human could imagine. Don't talk. We're about to accelerate, Akira said, holding Natalia tightly as he pushed the plane's throttle to the maximum. In this situation, gradual acceleration and deceleration wouldn't have much effect. Only sudden, intense changes in speed could create the desired inertial forces. Boom. The plane's engines roared as it accelerated sharply. Ah! Natalia's eyes rolled back as she clung to Akira. As dimensional energy surged through her, Natalia discovered a new possibility within herself. Though she was just an ordinary human, the energy Akira had infused into her granted her a power beyond this world. Meanwhile, on the ground, Garetsugu Emiya fired a rocket launcher at the plane. Tears streamed down his face as he watched the plane explode. From that day forward, Garetsugu became a complete being. Having killed his own father and now Natalia, who was like a mother to him, his heart had turned to ice. From now on, for the sake of world peace and becoming a hero of justice, there was no price he wouldn't pay. As for Akira, he was now being interrogated by Saber. Why do you smell like cigarettes? Saber asked, wrinkling her nose like a wife suspicious of her husband. Guess? Akira smiled without giving a direct answer. Saber bit her lip, immediately thinking of that smoking woman. Just as she suspected. Akira had traveled through time just to do that. Wait, Saber suddenly realized something. As a demon king, Akira definitely has the ability to remove the smell of smoke from his body, which means, you did this on purpose. Saber raised an eyebrow, even more displeased. Congratulations, Saber. You're correct. I did it on purpose, Akira replied with a satisfied smile. Saber had finally grown. Why? Wait, don't answer that. As soon as she asked, Saber regretted it. The answer was obvious, wasn't it? He left the smell of smoke on purpose to tease her. Saber, don't you feel like you understand human hearts a bit better now? This isn't a human heart. This is the heart of a demon. Saber pouted and sat down, continuing her time-traveling journey with Akira. After a few more trips through time, Akira and Saber returned to their original timeline. As soon as they returned, their minds were flooded with memories of the new world line. Ding. Surely dimensional energy levels qualified, world line shift successful. Original world line summary, Garetsugu's childhood friend and assistant to Norakata Emiya turned into a ghoul and died. New world line summary, received a cross at a young age, devoutly believing in God. After turning into a ghoul, her prayers summoned a divine being, and she was reborn through a Guman's intervention, infused with dimensional energy, successfully altering the world line. Ding. Natalia dimensional energy levels qualified, world line shift successful. Original world line summary, raised Garetsugu. Died in a plane explosion while on a mission. New world line summary, made a deal with a demon to obtain a cross. Fulfilled the contract with Akira before her death, infused with dimensional energy, successfully altering the world line. Ding. Mid-dimensional energy levels unqualified, partial world line shift. Original world line summary, born in a war-torn country, saved by Garetsugu, became his assistant. New world line summary, found by Akira and trained by Natalia. Joined Garetsugu to retrieve the Holy Grail and save Natalia. World line changes, 2 characters revived, creating a butterfly effect. Ding. Claudia dimensional energy levels unqualified, partial world line shift. Ding. Taiga dimensional energy levels unqualified, partial world line shift. Ding. Bezit dimensional energy levels unqualified, partial world line shift. Other world line changes, Please explore further. After absorbing the updated memories, Saber excitedly turned to Akira. We succeeded. Yes, we did, Akira nodded. But what? Saber tilted her head. Your plan to save Britain will have to wait. Altering the deaths of 2 characters has delayed our timeline by 2 days. Akira explained that changing events involving many people required careful consideration of time fluctuations. He didn't want to return only to find years had passed. That's fine, Saber nodded. I can wait. Besides, I'm not ready to make any formal contracts yet. At the very least, I need to understand human hearts better. I don't want to be called a king who doesn't understand people again, Saber said with a bitter smile. Don't worry, Saber. I'll help you understand human hearts, Akira promised with a smile. Saber noticed his gaze and sighed. Why are you looking at my lips when you say that? Saber, why do you think? Akira replied with a teasing smile. Saber didn't respond. She simply closed her eyes. If she couldn't resist, she might as well enjoy it. This was all part of preparing for the next energy absorption. Chapter 75, Rin Tasaka only plays high-stakes games despite only having spent a few days together. Saber already felt like she and Akira had the familiarity of an old married couple. However, things didn't go as Saber expected. Even after closing her eyes, she didn't feel the anticipated touch after a few seconds. Huh? Confused, Saber opened her eyes. Then, she saw Akira disappearing into a teleportation circle. Sorry, 2 days have passed, and the Holy Grail war situation has changed. I need to go handle something. Saber simply watched Akira leave, shaking her head with a bitter smile. Flirting and then running away, classic him. A few seconds earlier, Akira had heard a cry for help. Akira. We're in danger. Please come quickly. The voice was unfamiliar yet carried a hint of familiarity. When Akira traced its source, he realized it came from the cross he had given out. The owner of the cross wasn't Shirley or Natalia, but Miyahisa. Mia? Is that you? Akira quickly responded. Yes, it's me, Akira-sama. Lady Iris-Veil is in danger. Please come quickly. Our location is. Got it. I'll be there soon. It was because of Mia's urgent plea that Akira had to leave Saber behind and rush to the scene. Saber watched Akira disappear, feeling like a wife watching her husband leave for work. Speaking of which, should I hold another king's banquet? If it's me now, I should be able to give a different answer than before. Over the past few days, Saber hadn't just traveled through time with Akira or been intimate with him. She had also learned a lot from him. Though she still didn't fully understand human hearts, Saber believed she had grown significantly compared to before. Meanwhile, at Miyahisa and Iris-Veil's location, while the world line had changed, some major events would still occur without Akira's direct intervention. For example, Mia assisting Kiritsugu during the Holy Grail War. However, unlike before, Mia's identity now was Kiritsugu's senior disciple. After meeting Akira during the Holy Grail War, Mia hadn't rushed to reconnect with him. Instead, she focused on her mission protecting Iris-Veil. In Mia's heart, she felt she had failed to protect her master, Natalia, and couldn't face Akira. So, she chose to temporarily avoid him, throwing herself fully into protecting Iris-Veil. Mia knew about Akira's relationship with Ilya and had deduced that Akira wanted Iris-Veil, the Lesser Grail. Thus, before meeting Akira again, Mia decided to protect Iris-Veil as a way to atone for her failure. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. According to the yellow beast that followed Akira, he had left 2 days ago, likely traveling through time. If they needed help, they could contact her. However, Mia didn't care about seeking help from Aguman. All she cared about was whether Akira was willing to see her. Akira's departure hit Mia hard. In her eyes, Akira hadn't said goodbye because he hadn't forgiven her for failing to protect Natalia. So, Mia felt even more guilty. This guilt persisted until just now. When faced with danger, the cross on Mia's chest emitted a faint light. Finally, she established a connection with Akira through the cross. Realizing she hadn't been abandoned and that Akira was still willing to come, Mia shed tears of relief. Huh? Kairiko Tomine, watching Mia cry, looked puzzled. What's going on? Today, with Gilgamesh's help, Kairi had finally found Iris-Veil hiding in the suburbs. His plan was the same as in the original timeline: capture Iris-Veil and use her as bait to lure Kiritsugu. This was a last resort. For some reason, Kiritsugu had been avoiding confrontation recently. Neither the Innsburn Castle nor the Emiya residence 10 years later yielded any trace of him. So, Kairi had to rely on the almighty Gilgamesh and his Gates of Babylon for assistance. Originally, Gilgamesh wouldn't have helped Kairi so readily. But with the world line changed, Gilgamesh was even more determined to add Saber to his collection. Unable to find Saber or Kiritsugu, Gilgamesh decided to target Iris first. Thus, today, after locating Iris, Kairai eagerly launched his attack. Before Akira arrived, the battle had already reached a fever pitch. Though Iris had Rin Tasaka by her side, they were no match for Kairai. Kairai faced Rin. A group of assassins joined Kairai in ganging up on Rin. Mia and Iris each fought an assassin to prevent them from assisting Rin. As for Gilgamesh, he only intervened against worthy opponents, so he remained high in the sky, watching the spectacle. TCH. Where's the backup? Rin, gripping her holy sword, bit her lip as she fought Kairai, all while hurling insults. Mapo tofu priest. You love spicy mapo tofu, huh? Is that the only thing that can stir your emotionless black heart? Fake priest. Got the guts to fight me one-on-one without your assassins? I'll take you all on. Originally, Rin would have had to fight 2 opponents. But with Kairai's multiple assassins, Rin now claimed she was fighting an entire group. Kairai, wielding Kuchilane's spear, clashed with Rin in a fierce battle. The command seals he obtained from Rizaiko Tomine not only replenished Gilgamesh and the assassin's mana but also his own. Now, he essentially had 3 servants with infinite mana. How could Rin possibly win? After all, unlike him, Rin had to expend her own mana and stamina to use her servant's powers. Boom. Kairai and Rin distanced themselves, the red mana on his spear intensifying. Rin. You've really grown. As your teacher, I'm delighted. Kairai's joy was evident. Bullshit, teacher. In this world line, I'm not your damn student. This world line's Rin was the legendary, hot-headed Rin Tasaka. A Rin who had never been in love, a Rin who lived by her own rules. She was fiery. Rin, you're right. In this world line, we haven't established a teacher-student relationship. But even so, I still see you as my student. Kairai certainly acknowledged Rin as his student. Otherwise, how could he derive pleasure from killing her? I can't let Kairai keep charging up. Rin bit her lip. The assassins were too troublesome. If it were just the assassins, she could handle them. But after fighting Kairai for so long, her mana was depleted, and she couldn't even activate Excalibur. Damn it. Sakura and Rin are such liabilities. And that Tamiya Shiru too. Can't the backup come any faster? Rin couldn't help but complain. The girl named Rin Tasaka was exhausted. Why did she always end up in high-stakes battles? First, she fought Gilgamesh and Kairai, then Gilgamesh alone, and now she was being ganged up on by Kairai. Who wrote this script? It was downright cruel. Gaibolg. Kairai finished charging and hurled the red spear that was destined to pierce the heart. Instinct. Facing a Kaladi-defying weapon like Gaibolg, Rin could only rely on Saber's instinct to counter it. Normally, she could dodge it with instinct, suffering only a minor injury. But now, whoosh whoosh, the remaining assassins threw daggers at her. Normally, Rin would use Mana Burst to deflect projectiles. But with Gaibolg threatening her, Rin chose to take the hits. Better to be struck by daggers than Gaibolg. The daggers left several wounds on Rin's body. Luckily, she narrowly avoided Gaibolg, sustaining only a graze on her side. Whoosh, a metallic cross flew toward Rin. Rin instinctively wanted to use Mana Burst to deflect it. But realizing it was something Mia had thrown, Rin quickly restrained herself. Rin-san. Use this. I've contacted Akira-sama. Backup is on the way. As Rin caught the cross, Mia's voice reached her ears. Got it. Rin breathed a sigh of relief. That man, Akira, though he had once abandoned Sakura and Alea, was undeniably powerful. Just as she thought this, an image of Akira appeared in her mind. Huh? As Akira's image appeared, Rin's wounds quickly healed, stopping the bleeding, scabbing over, and fully recovering. It seems using this cross makes his image appear in my mind. Well, he's a bastard, but he's definitely good looking. Oh? Interesting. This cross has healing properties. Kairai raised an eyebrow, surprised Rin had lasted so long despite her depleted mana. Rin, you're amazing. This is how it should be. Thus, as Rin healed and fought the assassins, Kairai gleefully began charging another attack. However, as Kairai charged, a sudden interruption occurred. Several gemstones fell from the sky. Boom 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 boom. A series of explosions disrupted Kairai's charge, leaving him covered in dust. This gem magecraft is. Rin's eyes widened. She hadn't used gem magecraft just now. The gem magecraft based on runes. Rin only knew one user of this technique. That person came from 10 years in the future. Or rather, over a decade in the future. At the end of her future memories, there was such a person. Her name was Luvia Luvajlita Idelfelt. From the smoke, a blonde girl in a blue and white noble dress walked forward. Her noble upbringing, paired with her wavy golden hair, made her seem like an elegant, high-class lady to anyone who didn't know better. And she was. As long as she didn't reveal her violent side, the blonde noble girl named Luvia was indeed the epitome of grace. Luvia. It's you. Why are you here? Rin was shocked. I came to verify if the memories in my mind were true. Though Luvia hadn't appeared much, she too had received future memories. After testing, she found that the spells she remembered could be used, and she could even transform into her adult self. Originally, she planned to bully Rin as a child, implanting the idea that Luvia is divine and untouchable. But as soon as she returned to the Tosaka territory in Fuuki City, she was trapped by a barrier. Unable to leave, Luvia could only head toward the sounds of battle. And there, she found Rin being ganged up on. Chapter 76, A New Servant. The alluring Nya he saw. After observing the battle for a while, Akira noticed that Rin Tosaka was on the verge of collapse. Without hesitation, he decided to intervene. He believed his actions were justified and did not disrupt the flow of history. After all, if Rin were to die here, how would they ever meet in the future? Rin. I never thought I'd see you in such a pitiful state, Akira said, opening his fan with the grace of a noble, his tone laced with the same sarcastic charm Rin remembered. After mocking Rin, Akira turned his attention to Kairiko Tamine. Kairiko Tamine. Leave this place. This is my territory. Akira's confidence stemmed from his belief in the unyielding flow of history. Since he and Rin had memories of the future, it meant they were destined to survive until then. Akira's reasoning was sound. If Gaia and Allah were still in control, his actions wouldn't disrupt the timeline. However, the course of history had already been altered, and fate had begun to shift once more. Since when have insects been allowed to speak within my barrier? A voice echoed from above. It was Gilgamesh, the king of heroes. He and Kairi had been searching for Saber for quite some time, but to no avail. Frustrated, Gilgamesh had resorted to using a special detection tool from his Gate of Babylon. Yet, even with such a treasure, Saber remained elusive, as if she had vanished into thin air. With no other options, the two decided to change their approach. If they couldn't find Saber, they would go after Iris Veil and Garrett Suguamiya. After detecting Iris Veil's presence, they immediately headed her way. Along the journey, Gilgamesh, feeling his pride was at stake, chose to remain aloof, observing from above. He had known about the intruders in his barrier from the start, but he hadn't expected one of them to possess memories of the future and dare to interfere in a battle between servants. Gilgamesh's reason for not joining the fight was to maintain the barrier and prevent outsiders from interfering. However, Akira's sudden intervention forced his hand. Seeing the doubt in Kairi's eyes, Gilgamesh felt his pride wounded. Thus, the great king of heroes decided to erase the evidence of his embarrassment. Golden ripples filled the sky as dozens of portals opened. Akira. Watch out! Rin shouted, using her wind magic to push Akira out of harm's way. Boom! The Wind King's barrier sent Akira flying, just as a barrage of golden weapons rained down from above. Most of the weapons struck the spot where Akira had been standing, but a few found their mark, piercing through Akira's body. Akira's blue and white noble dress was stained with blood as she was impaled by both a spear and a sword. I really hate people who attack from behind, Akira muttered weakly, using the last of her strength to activate a hidden mechanism within her family's territory. As she had mentioned, her family owned land on the outskirts of Fuuki City, and the battlefield was within their domain. With a flash of light from the gem in her hand, the sky and ground lit up with dozens of magical beams. The rare gemstones unleashed their power, cutting through everything in their path. After executing her final move, Akira collapsed, her once pristine dress now covered in dust. Slowly, the golden-haired noblewoman closed her eyes. Akira! Rin screamed, her voice filled with despair as she witnessed Akira's lifeless body. The magical beams had eliminated most of the assassins, and Rin knew she had to seize this opportunity. Kairi, you bastard! Rin unleashed her Wind King's barrier, slamming Kairi into a tree and knocking him unconscious. Huh? Kairi was confused. Why was Rin attacking him instead of Gilgamesh? A golden weapon descended from the sky, interrupting Rin's assault. At the same time, a new figure appeared on the scene, bypassing all barriers and restrictions. What's going on here? Akira asked, looking around in confusion. Rin being here made sense, but who was the golden-haired woman lying on the ground? While Akira was merely puzzled, Gilgamesh was utterly shocked. What? How is this possible? Gilgamesh exclaimed, standing up from his throne on the Vimana. He had set up a barrier, so how had this Akira managed to enter without him or his treasures detecting anything? Quickly, Akira assessed the situation. So, Akira also came to Fuuki City after gaining memories of the future. And look at her now. Gilgamesh really has no mercy for women, Akira muttered, shaking his head as he approached Akira's body. He understood now what it meant to have a beautiful girl fall right into his lap. As he reached Akira, Akira took out a pawn piece and placed it inside her body. She's still warm. Perfect timing. If there weren't so many people around, Akira might have considered taking advantage of the situation. After all, he wasn't one to let an opportunity slip by. Ah, this pure and clear presence is. Gilgamesh sensed Saber's aura and decided to leave on his Vimana. To him, everyone present was merely a distraction. Saber was the main event. However, before he could depart, Akira's voice stopped him. Who said you could leave? Akira's eyes narrowed as dimensional rifts opened around Gilgamesh. What? Before he could react, Gilgamesh and his Vimana were sucked into the void? Kyrai, seeing Gilgamesh's abrupt departure, was left dumbfounded. Not only had Gilgamesh failed to eliminate the intruders, but he had also left Kyrai to deal with the aftermath. Assassin. Cover my retreat. Fortunately, not all the assassins had been eliminated, giving Kyrai a chance to escape. Hey! Wait. Rin tried to give chase, but her body gave out. In a puff of smoke, she reverted to her younger form. Akira watched Kyrai flee but made no move to stop him. Just as Gilgamesh had no regard for the people present, Akira had no interest in Kyrai. Meanwhile, Akira's body began to heal as the pawn piece took effect. Slowly, she opened her eyes and found herself staring at a breathtakingly handsome young man. Are you married? Akira asked without hesitation. If not, would you consider joining the Edelfelt family? Akira chuckled, running his fingers over Akira's stomach. The wounds had healed, leaving her skin smooth and unblemished. Akira let out a soft, cat-like purr, her initial protest forgotten as she basked in the warmth of Akira's touch. With a flick of his wrist, Akira's chest glowed, revealing the image of a pawn piece. Miss Akira. The reason you're alive is because you've absorbed my piece. By doing so, you've become mine, Akira said, his voice dripping with charm. As Akira processed this information, her eyes glazed over, overwhelmed by the influx of knowledge. Alright, take your time to digest all that. I have other matters to attend to, Akira said, leaving Akira to her thoughts as he headed toward Irisveel's location. As he walked, Akira conversed with Aguman. Aguman, if you exist in both the present and the past while I'm time traveling, why didn't you help when Irisveel was in danger? Aguman paused before responding. On one hand, I exist in both timelines and wasn't sure when you'd return. If someone you cared about was truly in danger, I would have intervened. Even death can be reversed if the soul hasn't completely dissipated. On the other hand, I thought it would be better for you to handle these situations yourself. You need to absorb the world's energy to grow stronger, and this is one way to do it. I see, Akira nodded. Aguman could see the flow of energy and knew that Akira grew stronger by interacting with the heroines of various worlds. That's why she allowed Akira to take the lead. Learning that Aguman had the ability to resurrect the dead, Akira's expression shifted. Well, then, I'll give you a few extra pieces to work with. That should make things easier for you. Akira sent a few black and white pieces to Aguman. These pieces were even more potent, capable of pulling souls back from the underworld as long as the body remained intact. Understood. I'll do my best to help you grow stronger, Aguman replied, storing the pieces carefully. By the way, Akira, can I study these pieces? Aguman had been curious about them ever since witnessing their power. Study them. Sure, go ahead. If you run out, just let me know, and I'll give you more, Akira agreed, amused by Aguman's newfound interest in research. As Akira continued on his way, he encountered Mia Hisawa, who had matured into a stunning woman. Akira-sama. Mia averted her gaze, afraid he would ask about Natalia. Mia. Akira observed the now fully matured Mia. Even without Natalia, Mia had learned to take care of herself. Her current demeanor was a result of Akira's influence, and he knew exactly what she was thinking. Chapter 77, Irisveel's new fiancé, Rin Tasaka's ominous premonition. After learning about the various details of time travel from the system, Akira's mind was filled with questions. If the heroines in the story could break free from their original fates by absorbing his energy, then, what would happen to those who couldn't escape their destined paths? The system had mentioned that changes would occur, but they would still be confined within the boundaries of fate. However, it hadn't specified the extent of these changes. What Akira wanted was concrete experimental data on how much could actually be altered. Thus, Akira chose Mia Hisawa as his test subject. He believed this experiment was necessary. His time for traversing through fate was limited, and he couldn't possibly use those brief moments to win over everyone he wanted to. If he forced things, he might gain their affection but not the fortune needed to level up. Therefore, Akira chose a more subtle approach. Instead of leaving his dimensional energy in every person whose fate needed changing, he focused on altering their destinies. The rewards could be reaped later. So, Akira left certain restrictions on some individuals, like the young Mia Hisawa, ensuring that the characters he targeted wouldn't be taken by others. Then, he left. He wanted to see what changes would occur if Miyahisa didn't have his dimensional energy within her. Now, the results were in. Miyahisa still participated in the Holy Grail War, but her role was no longer that of Kiritsugu Emiya's assistant and lover. Instead, she became his senior disciple. Akira was satisfied with the results. From now on, when he traveled through time, he could use this method to claim others or even revive those who had already died. As Akira looked at the guilt-ridden Miyahisa, he couldn't help but see the little girl who had once held his hand. "Miya, you don't need to blame yourself." "No, Lord Akira, it's my fault." "About Natalia?" Miya faced Akira directly. "That really wasn't your fault." Akira sighed helplessly and extended his hand. The cross in Rin Tasaka's possession flew back to him. After resting in his palm for a few seconds, it shot toward Miyahisa. Whoosh! In an instant, the cross returned to Miya's chest. As the cross settled, a new memory surfaced in Miya's mind. "This is Natalia?" Miya saw the scene of Akira rescuing Natalia from the plane. Wait. Natalia was infected, wasn't she? So, Kiritsugu lied to me? Realizing this, Miya's eyes turned fierce. It made sense. After killing his father and adoptive mother, Kiritsugu Emiya had evolved into his complete form. If he could kill his parents, wife, and daughter, deceiving a senior disciple with whom he had little emotional connection was nothing. Now that Minu Akira had saved Natalia, she finally found the courage to face him. Lord Akira. Just like the little girl she once was, Miya threw herself into Akira's arms. There. Akira gently stroked Miya's hair. The once unripe fruit has now matured. It's time to harvest. While comforting the cool beauty in his arms, Akira turned his gaze to Iris Veil. Aside from Miya, he had also intervened in Iris Veil's affairs. Akira was quite pleased with the results of his experiment with her. Thanks to his interference, Kiritsugu Emiya was now merely a mercenary for the Innsburn family, with no marital ties to Iris Veil. Iris Veil's fiancé was someone else. Iris Veil, do you know what this is? Akira extended his hand, conjuring a drop of blood. This feeling is. Iris Veil covered her lips with her hand, her toes curling within her black stockings. Now she understood why she had felt that strange sensation when Akira touched her feet by the beach. So, Akira was her fiancé? After the timeline changed, Akira had still completed the sign-in by touching Iris Veil's feet at the beach. However, her reaction was much stronger this time, nearly causing her to collapse. The reason was simple: her body now contained a trace of Akira's demonic bloodline. During his fate traversals, Akira had accessed several time nodes before Kiritsugu Emiya married into the Innsburn family. At the time nodes involving Shirley and Natalia, Akira hadn't just focused on his romantic pursuits. He had also made preparations for future events. For example, he had contacted the Innsburn family in advance and struck a deal with them. The subject of the deal was naturally Iris Veil. In order to enhance the attributes of their homunculi, the Innsburn family had traded with Akira for a trace of demonic power. Ultimately, this power was applied to Iris Veil. So, Akira is a fiancé chosen by my family? Iris Veil's expression was complex, unsure how to respond. Akira was her fiancé, and he had the power to free her from the fate of becoming a Holy Grail vessel. This realization left Iris Veil more conflicted than ever. After the timeline changed, she no longer had the will to obtain the Holy Grail for Kiritsugu's dream. Her participation in the Holy Grail War was solely at the behest of her family, nothing more. Seeing Iris Veil's hesitation, Akira knew she was at a crossroads. He had the power and the necessity to erase her doubts. Iris Veil, come with me. You don't need to worry about the Holy Grail anymore. As for the Innsburn family, you don't need to concern yourself with them. Have you forgotten? A few days ago, I conquered the Innsburn family. That's right. When Elia went missing, news also came that the Innsburn family had fallen. Iris Veil's eyes widened. Did this mean the Innsburn family was now under Akira's control? Understanding everything, Iris Veil recalled Akira's words about taking her away. Her affection for Akira had already been high due to Elia, but now it skyrocketed. Yes. Akira. I'll go with you. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me and Elia. Thank you for saving us from the fate of becoming Holy Grail vessels. Iris Veil embraced Akira, tears in her eyes, and pressed her lips to his in a tender, inexperienced kiss. Meanwhile, Miya, still in Akira's arms? Soon, the light of a teleportation array flashed, and Akira, along with the two women, began to fade away. Seeing Akira about to leave, Rin Tasaka, who had just regained some strength, hurriedly took control of her younger self's body, transforming into the teenage Rin. Hey. Wait. I still have questions for you. I heard from Sakura that Mom. Before Rin could finish, Akira's figure vanished completely. TCH. Rin clicked her tongue in frustration. She had wanted to ask Akira about her mother, Rin Tasaka. On one hand, she wanted to know how her mother was doing under Akira's care. On the other hand, after days of separation, she missed her dearly. Rin hadn't been able to ask Akira directly. However, she soon found a new target for her questions. Thud as the dust settled, two young girls arrived late to the scene. Sakura and Ilya. Rin had countless things she wanted to say, but all that came out was, "Why are you so late? Did you run into trouble?" Rin Tasaka's sister, who could never be harsh with her younger sibling. "Yes, sister. We were delayed by the barrier outside," Sakura nodded, surveying the battlefield. "Even with berserker strength, I couldn't break through it quickly," Ilya sighed. However, after sighing, she covered her mouth and giggled. Rin's disheveled state was simply too amusing. Although the three of them had formed an alliance, their relationship was still as noisy as ever. "Humphrey. Laugh all you want. Your mom just got taken away by that man." Rin snapped, her frustration boiling over. That scoundrel Akira already had Sakura and Ilya wrapped around his finger, and now he had other lovers too? Seeing Iris Veil plant a passionate kiss on Akira, Rin felt an ominous premonition. Could it be that her mother, Rin Tasaka? No. That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Rin knew full well that Iris Veil and Ilya were homunculi created by the Innsburn family. Their mother-daughter relationship was nominal at best, more akin to sisters. Their tragic fate destined them to become Holy Grail vessels, so it was natural for them to be moved by someone who could save them. Moreover, from what Akira had said earlier, it seemed he had long since established a marital arrangement with the Innsburn family. Her mother, Rin Tasaka, would never be as forward as Iris Veil. Rin was right. Rin Tasaka hadn't been forward. She had been passive at first, but then she gave in completely. Especially after learning of Tokiomi Tasaka's death, things had spiraled out of control. "By the way, Sakura, isn't Mom with you? Can I see her again?" Rin asked, turning to Sakura. Having failed to protect her father, Rin had grown even more dependent on her mother. After days without seeing her, she longed for her mother's embrace. "Ah. About that. How about we go see her now?" Sakura awkwardly smiled, then took Rin's hand and led her toward the inn. If they wanted to see Rin Tasaka, it had to be now. It was still afternoon. Any other time, morning or night, Rin Tasaka would either be unavailable or too exhausted. So, Sakura decided to take Rin to see her mother while Akira was away. As for bringing Rin into the fold, Sakura wasn't opposed to the idea. She just felt the timing and circumstances weren't right. It could wait for a better opportunity. And so, Sakura led Rin away. The battlefield was now left to Ilya and Luvia. Ilya's eyes sparkled with mischief. She had no intention of following Rin and Sakura. She had her own plans. "If I head to the Innsburn castle to see Mom in 2 hours, I can still have some fun before then." Ilya crouched down and reached out to touch Luvia's golden hair. "What are you doing?" Luvia jumped back. Since her future self wasn't particularly powerful, Luvia could maintain her adult form for extended periods. Known as the Crane Wing Princess, Luvia possessed not only great physical strength but also an enviable figure. Ilya eyed Luvia's curvaceous body, accentuated by her noble dress, her well-developed hips, and ample chest. "I see. So Dad still prefers the mature type, huh?" Ilya sighed, glancing down at her own petite frame. 10 years have passed, and I'm still this small. Guess I'm stuck like this forever." Seeing Akira add another voluptuous subordinate to his ranks, Ilya couldn't help but feel displeased. Of course, her displeasure was directed at Luvia. "You are Dad's new subordinate?" Ilya placed her hands on her hips, her short stature somehow exuding an air of authority. "I suppose so," Luvia replied, a bitter smile on her face as a white chess piece floated above her chest. She wasn't sure whether this was fortunate or unfortunate. In any case, she had become a subordinate to a high-dimensional demon, effectively severing her ties to this world. This unequal relationship, which seemed to offer benefits, left her wondering should she submit or resist. Seeing Luvia's confusion, Ilya grinned like a little devil. She had just thought of a way to tease both Luvia and Rin, all while earning her father's praise. It was a win-win-win situation. "Luvia, you don't get along with Rin, do you? Then, how about we team up to prank her?" "Oh?" Luvia's ears perked up. Even as a subordinate to a high-dimensional demon, her love for mischief hadn't waned. "Do tell." Ilya leaned in and whispered her three-birds-one-stone plan into Luvia's ear. Chapter 78, Second Stage, Exceptional Peace. Enhanced resurrection methods on the other side. Outside Fuiuki City. In the Innsburn Castle. Akira was savoring the taste of the Innsburn Holy Grail. After integrating the piece, Iris Veil and the Holy Grail separated, and she became a truly independent life form. Iris Veal gently covered her red lips, her crimson eyes trembling as tears of emotion streamed down her cheeks. At Akira's suggestion, Iris Veal donned the heavenly feather robe. Akira's hand could easily reach her white stocking thighs adorned with cross patterns. He quite liked this new style of patterned stockings. It had to be said, the Innsbruck sense of aesthetics was truly ahead of its time. Iris Veal's cascading white hair spread out, entwining around Akira's fingers. The silver-haired, crimson-eyed maiden was still awkward in both her movements and responses, so she could only express her gratitude and dependence by pressing her hands against Akira's. Ding! Detected ongoing plunder of fate energy. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated. Fate plunder target Iris Veal. Ding! Fate plunder successful. Host level increased by 10 levels. Current level, 190. Peak high class devil. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing a villain sign-in. Sign-in level, silver. Sign-in type, stage event sign-in. Sign-in event, the seductive demon, Iris Veal. Congratulations to the host for receiving the reward, Peace Advancement. Peace Advancement, as the name suggests, it allows exceptional pieces to advance, enhancing their level and effects. After advancement, the exceptional piece becomes a second stage, exceptional piece, with several enhancements. 1. Strength enhancement. The advanced exceptional piece will undergo targeted corrections and enhancements for all races. Each time a new race is subjugated or a contract is formed with a new race, a corresponding set of correction pieces will be added. Currently, the host's pieces have been allocated and reorganized based on race. 2. Quantity enhancement. Apart from the special effect pieces like Queen, Rook, Knight, and Bishop, the pawn piece will automatically generate a new exceptional piece every day. A first stage exceptional piece could only form a powerful team, but a second stage exceptional piece, given time, can form a powerful army. 3. Stealth enhancement. After advancement, the piece gains invisibility and the ability to alter physical constitution. Even when examined by specialized equipment, no abnormalities can be detected. 4. Resurrection enhancement. Ordinary devil pieces can resurrect someone who has just died. Exceptional pieces can bring someone back even if they have been dead for a long time, as long as the body is intact. After advancement, the second stage exceptional piece can resurrect someone with only a portion of the body and soul remaining. Note: each high-intensity resurrection will consume the host's fate energy and dimensional energy based on the strength of the resurrected individual. It cannot resurrect beings stronger than the host. As the exceptional piece evolved, a faint glow enveloped Iris Veal, who was beneath Akira. At the same time, Akira's dimensional energy surged, transforming Iris Veal's body. Iris Veal's white-stockinged feet pressed together behind Akira, her eyes rolling back uncontrollably. Mana surged, then erupted, advancing. This phenomenon wasn't limited to Iris Veal, it also occurred in all of Akira's other subordinates. Huh? Ilya and Luvagilita were out shopping, discussing strategies, when they suddenly felt a change. This is evolution. Luvagilita lifted her white-stockinged sleeve, her brown eyes filled with shock. She had already examined her body and knew she had evolved after absorbing Akira's piece. Knowing this, she had accepted the fact that she had become Akira's subordinate. There was no helping it, he was too strong, too handsome, and had given her a second life and immense power. She couldn't just dig the piece out, could she? But who would have thought that after one evolution, there could be a second? Now, there was no way to repay him. She could only heed the call of fate and offer her body and soul to this high-dimensional demon. Miss Luvagilita, see? I told you following Dad was the best choice. Ilya smiled, resting her chin on her hand as she looked at Luvagilita. She also had a piece within her, so she had gained significant benefits from the evolution. Alright, enough chit-chat. I'm more interested in catching that girl now. Luvagilita sipped her coffee, crossing her plump legs. As Ilya had said, it was too unfair for Rin to be the only one left out. She had to drag Rin into this as well. That way, she would be the senior subordinate, and Rin would be the junior, forever trailing behind her. With the pieces entering the second stage, not only did subordinates like Ilya and Luvagilita, who had absorbed the pieces, benefit, but even those who hadn't absorbed the pieces were affected. Outside Innsbruck Castle, Saber curiously pulled out the white knight piece from her pocket. She could clearly feel the piece's attraction to her growing stronger. Her body was craving this piece. Saber? What's wrong? Your fighting today isn't as sharp as before. Across from her, Diarmid set down his spear, looking puzzled. Today, after returning from the fake-shifting state, Saber had done two main things. First, she released her aura, initiating a feast for kings. Second, she fought Diarmid. Of course, the second wasn't something she initiated herself, it was Akira's request. However, Saber herself was also willing to settle things with Diarmid. It's nothing. I'm just thinking about some things. Saber held the white knight piece, her expression blank as she gazed deep into the castle. That demon, Akira, was probably enjoying his time with his fiancée, Iris Veil, right? The seeds he had sown were finally bearing fruit. This was the pursuit of pleasure by a demon. Saber shook her head helplessly. Unlike Iris Veil, Saber retained memories from before the timeline shift. She knew that in the original timeline, Iris Veil was Garrett Sugumiya's wife. Though they hadn't consummated their relationship, the bond was there. But now, originally, she should have been happy. After all, Akira had altered the timeline, cucking Garrett Sugu and becoming Iris Veil's fiancé. If Akira could change this timeline, he could change hers as well. But why? Did she still feel so displeased? Demons. Truly terrifying creatures, Saber knew exactly why she was displeased. Because she, too, was a woman. Because she had developed feelings for Akira. Saber finally realized that a woman's attraction to a man didn't require the man to be loyal. A woman only needed the man to be strong enough to do what she couldn't, to protect her and her children. That alone was enough to fulfill the basic conditions for bearing offspring. On top of that strength, if the man was handsome, it would create an irresistible allure for any woman. Saber had once believed she would never develop feelings for the opposite sex. But now, she realized it wasn't that she couldn't, but that she hadn't been able to. Before, she hadn't had the qualifications to develop such feelings. She was a king, bearing the weight of Britain's 9 provinces on her shoulders. With such heavy responsibilities and no one stronger to rely on, it was impossible for her to develop romantic feelings. In ancient times, women who menstruated could only increase their chances of survival by relying on men. Matriarchal societies weren't ruled by women but by their brothers and uncles. Men, with their higher mortality rates and shorter lifespans, protected women of reproductive value. The two genders cooperated, exchanging resources to ensure the survival and continuation of tribes. No matter how strong a woman was, she would still develop romantic feelings and seek someone to rely on. It was an instinct engraved in her genes. If such feelings didn't arise, there was only one possibility: there was no man stronger than her, no one who could conquer her. Realizing this, Saber's mindset and demeanor underwent another subtle change. Through her contemplation of romantic feelings, Saber came to understand human nature. Human nature wasn't inherently evil or good. Human nature was natural. Evil and goodness paled in comparison to survival. Whether it was men using strength to plunder women or women using reproductive resources to exploit men, it was all part of nature. Just as the rich exploited the poor, and the poor resented the rich. These things couldn't be changed. As a king, all she could do was reform and guide. Huh? Saber, you seem different from before. Diarmid sensed the subtle change in Saber's demeanor. Saber seemed to have undergone some kind of enlightenment? Not in terms of strength, but in her mindset. It's nothing. I've just came to understand something I should have realized long ago. Saber took one last glance deep into the castle. When she turned back to Diarmid, there was no trace of hesitation in her eyes. Now then. Come, Lancer. It's time to bring this battle to an end. Earlier, Saber had been distracted by Akira's activities with Iris Veil inside the castle. But now, Saber had evolved to the point where she no longer cared how many women Akira had. If Iris Veil's fate could improve by being with Akira, then there was no reason to stop it. The same applied to her. Inside Innsburn Castle, Akira lay with Iris Veil, gently stroking her smooth hair. He personally experienced the benefits of the piece's advancement. After the piece advanced, Iris Veil's hair became even softer, her skin more delicate, and her stamina greatly enhanced. Not just Iris Veil, but all my other subordinates must have undergone similar evolutions. Akira fondly remembered the days-long battles with Sikvera, the strongest opponent he had ever faced. Now, with the piece's advancement, if Sikvera could absorb his piece, she would become even more beautiful and alluring. Now that the pawn piece generates one every day, there's no need to conserve pieces anymore. With an infinite number of pieces and their stealth function, Akira decided to equip everyone on his side with exceptional pieces. By the way, now that the exceptional piece has evolved, its ability to bring people back has also improved. Does that mean Justice could also? Akira was the type to think 2 steps ahead, always planning while enjoying the present. In fact, while solving Ilya's problem, Akira had investigated the Holy Grail situation. Back then, his piece's abilities weren't sufficient. But now, Akira could consider when to resurrect Justice. As long as he found the Greater Grail and Justice's body and soul fragments, he could attempt to bring her back. If he couldn't find the body or soul fragments, he could set up a miniature device during Saber's fake shifting to collect the body and soul fragments, then resurrect her upon returning. Resurrecting the dead consumes my fate energy and dimensional energy. It seems that, like the fate-shifting machine, the piece's resurrection function also requires the power of my high-dimensional bloodline. Thus, Akira lay with iris veil, pondering future developments. Until a knock sounded, and a black figure entered somewhat hesitantly. The black figure was, of course, Mia. If iris veil represented white, then Mia was black. The contrast between the two was striking. Iris veil in her white stocking feather robe and Mia in her black bodysuit made for a visually pleasing scene. Is it time already? Akira glanced at the clock. After absorbing the piece and evolving, Iris veil's physical abilities had improved significantly, causing Akira to lose track of time. Yes, Lord Akira, it's time. Mia bit her thin lip, her usually cold and expressionless face visibly flushed. Without waiting for Akira to prepare, Mia moved Iris veil aside and took her place. Chapter 79, The Blessed Holy Cross, Dimensional Invaders. Iris veil's body shifted slightly, pushed by Mia from lying on her side to lying flat on her back. Mia. Pop. The sound of a cork being pulled echoed softly. Iris veil, sensing a change in herself, opened her eyes in confusion. What she saw was Mia, clad in a tight black bodysuit. Initially, Iris veil had thought of Mia as a cold-blooded assassin, given that she was Kiritsugu Amiya's senior. But now, she realized that the more reserved a person appeared on the surface, the more twisted they might be in private. Compared to Iris veil, who was passively enduring, Mia, who was actively expressing her emotions, was far more shocking. How had she never noticed this girlish side of Mia before? Mia held a cross in one hand, her eyes teary and her whites showing. Her toes curled and uncurled, almost tearing through the black stockings beneath her tight pants. Lord Akira, I've heard some things about you from Natalia. Please. Grant me your peace as well. I want to stay by your side. Forever. Mia clung tightly to Akira, pleading with him. It was just like the little girl on the battlefield who had once begged to stay by his side. Akira remained silent, simply pulling out a black pawn piece. As the black pawn piece merged with Mia, her physique underwent an evolution. Ding. Detected energy absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated, energy absorption target, Mia. Ding. Energy absorption successful. Host level increased by 6. Current level, 196, peak high-class level, ding. Congratulations, host, for completing a villain check-in level, silver, check-in type, event-based, check-in event, corrupting a demon, Mia. Congratulations, host, for receiving the reward, Blessed Holy Cross, a cross capable of replicating and housing a portion of the host's power. With time and effort, it can theoretically be produced infinitely. The replicated power will be 2 levels lower than the original. For example, if the host can exert the power of a Mao, the Blessed Holy Cross can only house the power of a high-class devil. Additionally, a single Blessed Holy Cross can be imbued with multiple abilities. In theory, possessing one Holy Cross makes the bearer a significantly weaker version of the host. Note, since the Blessed Holy Cross requires the host's original power to create, anyone wearing it will gain increased resistance to fate, making them less susceptible to the world's corrective influences, the Blessed Holy Cross. Seeing this reward, Akira became even more convinced of one thing: the system's rewards were not random. They were tailored to his current situation and needs. Previously, Akira had been pondering how to resist the world's corrective forces and ensure that he wouldn't be cuckolded when he left. To this end, he had even placed restrictions on Mia and Iris veil. But now, he had obtained the Blessed Holy Cross, which granted resistance to fate. With this, many of his plans would become far easier to execute. Mia. Let me give you a gift. Akira reached out, touching the cross on Mia's chest. A golden light flickered. In moments, the cross on Mia's chest transformed into the Blessed Holy Cross. Since Akira had only temporarily enhanced the healing power, the process took mere seconds. Mia sat up, holding the now more sacred and intricately designed cross, feeling an unprecedented sense of security. This time, Akira wouldn't leave her, right? Lord Akira. From now on, please allow me to stay by your side. Mia quietly rested on Akira, absorbing more of the sense of security he provided. She had always been a woman lacking in sense of security. It wasn't until Akira's arrival that her insecurities were filled, leaving her feeling overwhelmingly happy. Watching Mia cling to Akira, Iris veil couldn't help but think, wait, is this cuckolding? Just moments ago, this spot had been hers. But after a brief nap, it had been taken over. Couldn't they have waited at least until today was over? Didn't they understand the concept of cuckolding? No. Wait. Iris veil suddenly realized something. It seemed Mia had been here first. So, it wasn't that she had been cuckolded, but rather, she had cuckolded Mia. And so, Akira enjoyed the company of two women with completely different auras, one black, one white. After all, he hadn't transmigrated for nothing. As an energy plunderer, Akira had a natural desire for the heroines of these anime worlds. His desire stemmed from two sources. First, his collector's instinct as a transmigrator. Having seen so many beautiful heroines in his past life, now that he had transmigrated, he naturally wanted to claim them. Otherwise, what was the point of transmigrating? Second, it was the instinct of a high-dimensional succubus. Plundering energy, strengthening oneself, and conquering worlds were the ways of a high-dimensional succubus. Conquering heroines was merely a means to conquer the world. Of course, there were other ways to conquer a world, but this was Akira's favorite method. That was all. While Akira was enjoying himself, subtle changes were occurring across the world cluster. After being teleported into the dimensional rift by Akira, Gilgamesh had no choice but to go all out, using EA to stir the fabric of space-time in hopes of re-establishing his connection with Kairiko Tamine. Having not been summoned back by Kairi for so long, Gilgamesh could only think of one possibility: he was beyond the range of the command seals. Thus, Gilgamesh piloted his Vimana, protected by the Gate of Babylon, and began causing chaos within the dimensional rift. As he wreaked havoc, the dimensional rift underwent a strange transformation. What is this? Gilgamesh saw a massive darkness enveloping the world cluster, spreading rapidly. I see. Gilgamesh stroked his chin, a pleased smile spreading across his face. The world's consciousness has been expelled. With no one left to protect this world cluster, the minions of the outer gods and dimensional creatures are beginning to stir. No, it wasn't that they were beginning to stir. Rather, due to Gilgamesh's meddling with space-time, the outer gods' minions and dimensional creatures were on the verge of erupting into chaos. These minions and creatures were not being controlled by anyone. The outer gods' minions were extensions of the outer gods' will, expanding outward. However, as long as the outer gods themselves were not actively awakened, their minions would only expand aimlessly. As for the dimensional creatures, they were even simpler. These beings, born in the dimensional gaps, had no self-awareness. They only instinctively attacked any life forms around them, devouring everything in the dimensional void, breaking down world fragments, and digesting the remnants of destroyed worlds. Things are getting more and more interesting. Gilgamesh's smile widened. He had no intention of stopping this. On the contrary, he wanted to stir up more trouble, to annoy the demon who sought to conquer this world. Perhaps I should unleash a great flood to filter humanity. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Let's see how many of today's humans can survive the flood and become the true humans of the new era. And so, Gilgamesh continued to stir the fabric of space-time. Until at some point, after disturbing a particular part of space-time, he finally re-established his connection with Kairiko Tamine. Whoosh! In an instant, Gilgamesh's figure vanished from the dimensional rift. All that remained were the outer gods' minions and dimensional creatures, now roused to fury by the spatial storm. Meanwhile, back with Akira, Mia was demonstrating her knightly spirit, steadfastly holding her ground. But the next second, the door burst open, and Saber rushed in. Akira. Something's happened. Akira raised an eyebrow, setting aside Mia, who had stiffened and rolled her eyes at Saber's sudden entrance. Glancing at the bloodstains on Saber's holy sword, Akira deduced that Saber had emerged victorious from her battle with Lancer. Of course. With her noble phantasm exposed, Diremyud stood no chance against Saber. Diremyud's defeat was no surprise to Akira. What surprised him was Saber's reaction. In Akira's memory, Saber wasn't one to easily lose composure. What could have happened to make her burst in so urgently, not even showing a hint of embarrassment upon seeing him and Mia in their current state? What's happened? Akira asked calmly. Something major. This world has been invaded by the minions of the outer gods. Saber replied gravely. The minions of the outer gods? Akira raised an eyebrow. Well, the minions of the outer gods? Saber couldn't be referring to the already defeated Cthulhu-like sea monster, could she? It must be something else. Whoosh! A flash of light, and a crystal ball used for surveillance projected an image. Soon, Akira surveyed the situation in several cities. Just as Saber had said, many cities were now infested with sea monsters, along with other bizarre creatures. Since they carried dimensional energy, Akira classified them as dimensional creatures living in the gaps between dimensions. The outer gods first established a connection with this world through the giant sea monster, so they must have instinctively sent similar forces afterward. It seems the outer gods are only expanding instinctively, with no intention of directly invading. I agree, Agumon's voice came through their contract. If they intended to invade, the outer gods wouldn't use such peaceful methods. So, we can only conclude that this is the minion's instinctual expansion. Agumon, who had memories of her, Mother Goddess, exploring other worlds, knew how these otherworldly beings typically operated. Do the outer gods' minions carry their power? Akira mused, stroking his chin. He had an idea. Yes, the invading sea monsters carry the power of the outer gods, Agumon replied. Though their energy is weak, if they keep devouring each other, they could cause significant disaster. Of course, even if they fused into a giant sea monster, it wouldn't compare to the Cthulhu dragon we defeated earlier. That one was special, carrying a trace of both Allah and the outer god's power. Akira, what should we do? If I intervene, I can use area spells to quickly eliminate these invaders. Agumon's desire to act was strong. No, that won't be necessary. Akira shook his head. What do you mean? It's not necessary? Agumon didn't understand. Agumon, we don't need to eliminate these invaders. Instead of destroying them, it's better to make them our allies. Make them our allies? Agumon tilted her head. She understood the words, but she didn't know how Akira planned to achieve this. Just then, Akira heard the system's notification. Ding. Congratulations, host, for triggering a villain check-in level, gold, check-in type, event-based, check-in event, expel the invaders, requirement, completely eliminate this wave of invading outer gods minions and dimensional creatures. Due to the turmoil in the dimensional gaps, rifts have formed, allowing the outer gods minions and dimensional creatures from outside the world to invade spontaneously. If left unchecked, this world cluster will either gradually collapse, becoming nourishment for the dimensional gaps, or be overrun by the outer gods minions, eventually leading to the arrival of the outer gods themselves. To prevent such an outcome, they must be sent back to where they came from. After all, why let others feast on what you've carved out for yourself? Expel the invaders? That suits me just fine. In Akira's eyes, both the sea monsters and the dimensional creatures were valuable resources. The sea monsters could help his sea dragon beast grow stronger. The dimensional creatures also had their uses. Such useful resources would be wasted if simply destroyed. However, to Akira's surprise, the system continued to issue notifications. Chapter 80, World Conquest Mission. The Sea Demon Dragon's Ascension Method, Ding, detected that the world cluster the host is in is undergoing gradual destruction, issuing a special check-in mission. Ding, congratulations, host, for triggering a villain check-in level, rainbow, check-in event, world conquest, requirement, collect enough fortune to completely conquer this world. Current progress, 62.5%, male protagonist fortune seized, Garrett Suguemiya, 10%, female protagonist fortune seized, Rin Tasaka, 2.5%, Sakura Matu, 10%, Ilya, 0%, Sola, 5%, Medea, 5%, Shirley, 2.5%, Natalia, 2.5%, Iris Viel, 10%, Mihisa, 5%, remaining fortune collection targets, male, Kairiko Tamine, 10%, Gilgamesh, 10%, female, Rin Tasaka, 10%, Saber, 10%, Medusa, 5%, Luvia, 2.5%, Bazit, 2.5%, Karin, 2.5%, Ayako Mitsuzuri, 2.5%, Taiga Fujimura, 2.5%, total percentage required, over 100%. Once 100% is collected, the world will be considered conquered. After conquering this world, the host can carry this world cluster with them, no longer subject to attacks from outer gods and dimensional creatures. Time limit, 1 year. After 1 year, even if not invaded, the separated world cluster will gradually disintegrate into world fragments, becoming food for dimensional creatures. So, I have to collect them all? Akira rubbed his forehead, feeling a slight headache. If he had to collect them all, it would take a lot of time. If brute force worked, he would definitely choose the simplest and most direct method. However, seizing fortune wasn't as simple as just killing the target. To seize the fortune of a male protagonist, he needed to break their will and replace them as the de facto protagonist, taking over their role. To seize the fortune of a female protagonist, he needed their voluntary devotion. Without their willingness, even if he obtained their bodies, he wouldn't absorb their fortune. Fortunately, Akira's high-dimensional succubus bloodline gave him a significant advantage in conquest. Otherwise, progress in seizing fortune, whether from male or female protagonists, would be much slower. Since I can't quickly conquer this world, I'll just have to let it suffer a little longer. Akira shook his head. 1 year. At most, he had 1 year to either make this world his or watch it perish. Of course, 1 year was still too long. If he couldn't complete the world conquest progress in a year, he might as well go home and forget about his so-called high-dimensional succubus bloodline. Having made up his mind, Akira began to implement his plan. Come out. A dark purple light flew from Akira's hand toward an open area outside the castle. Soon, A massive sea demon dragon appeared outside the Innsbruck castle. What is this? That outer god subordinate from before? How is this possible? Aguman could sense that this outer god subordinate seemed to be under Akira's control. Under Akira's command, the massive sea demon dragon began to split into smaller entities. Akira, what are you doing? Aguman was confused about Akira's intentions. Aguman, remember what I said? Outer god subordinates can devour each other to grow stronger. Devour each other to grow stronger. I see. Akira, you want this sea demon dragon to devour all the invading outer god subordinates, don't you? Aguman swallowed hard. As expected of Akira, even the outer god subordinates were being used as tools. Exactly. If it devours them all, this sea demon dragon should be able to break through from Demon King level to Super Demon King level. An infinitely regenerating Super Demon King would make an excellent meat shield. Rather than fighting himself, Akira preferred sending out his Pokémon to gang up on enemies. Currently, Akira had 3 powerful Pokémon. Aguman, with infinite potential and the ability to surpass the world's limits. The 12-winged fallen angel, who could fight for 10 minutes after charging for 24 hours. And now, the meat shield, the massive sea demon dragon. When facing powerful opponents, these 3 could form a perfectly coordinated team. The sea demon dragon would take the front line as the meat shield. The 12-winged fallen angel would act as both a warrior and a mage. With its wings, it could engage in close combat, and with its light spheres, it could cast spells. Its wings' defensive capabilities also allowed it to temporarily act as a tank. As for Aguman, it could serve as both support and ranged DPS. Aguman could use a variety of spells and had powerful ranged and melee capabilities, making it an all-rounder. If there were more than one Aguman, it could handle every role by itself. As for Akira, he usually used Asia and Gasper's abilities to act as a healer and support, filling in any role as needed. Aguman didn't know what Akira was thinking, but she couldn't help but feel a bit nostalgic. A Super Demon King, Aguman fell silent for a few seconds. If the Sea Demon Dragon were just a Demon King level entity, she was confident she could defeat it on her own, though it might take half a day. But if it advanced to Super Demon King level, Aguman felt she would have to risk her life. By using a forbidden technique at the cost of her life, she could seal it away until the end of time. While Aguman was lost in thought, the massive Sea Demon Dragon had already split into numerous smaller entities. Of course, given the Sea Demon Dragon's size, even its smaller forms were much larger than ordinary sea demons. Aguman, follow my orders. Yes, Akira. What do you need me to do? Aguman felt as if she had returned to her training days. Even though she had awakened and was just a step away from fully recovering, she still felt she couldn't keep up with Akira's pace. Aguman, use a teleportation spell to send the smaller sea demon dragons to all cities with dimensional rifts. Understood, Akira, Aguman responded immediately. A few seconds later, a mechanical dragon over 100 meters tall appeared outside the Innsbruck castle. The mechanical dragon raised its arm and cast a spell beneath thousands of miniature sea demon dragons. Within seconds, thousands of sea demon dragons were teleported. Then, as if without cooldown, the mechanical dragon began another wave of teleportation. Akira watched Aguman's frantic spellcasting with a subtle expression. He had always wanted to ask, with such mastery of spells, was Aguman really a magical beast and not the newly born god of this world? As for the possibility that Aguman was the god of the Bible, Akira had ruled that out when Aguman activated her sacred armament. If she were the god of the Bible, her sacred armament should have been something like the Spear of Twilight or the Spear of Dawn, not the spear that pierces the world. This world-piercing attribute was unique to Aguman. Aguman, keep teleporting. I'll handle my part. Akira walked to the window. Akira, what are you going to do? Do you need my help? Me? I'm going to deal with those dimensional creatures. As for you, Aguman, do whatever you want for now. If you can't think of anything, you can help me collect those dimensional creatures. They might be useful to me. Akira felt that keeping Aguman in the contract space was a waste of her abilities. Besides, after obtaining the Holy Grail, Aguman would gain a human form. In human form, Aguman could play an even greater role. Whether it was handling internal affairs, diplomacy, or research, Aguman needed to transition from her current mindset as a contract beast. Letting Aguman decide her own actions was a form of early practice. After saying this, Akira's clothes shimmered, transforming from pajamas back into his formal attire. Vanishing Dragon Balance Breaker, Forbidden Art, White Dragon Emperor's Armor, Dividing Scale Mail, instantly clad in armor, Akira took off toward the city. As the mechanical dragon continued teleporting sea demon dragons, it watched Akira's departing figure. Do whatever I want, huh? This statement left her feeling a bit complicated. For Akira to say this meant he trusted her greatly, believing she could contribute more by acting independently than by following his orders. But, if possible, Agumon still wished Akira would give her direct commands. Following Akira's orders had been her purpose for so many years. A few seconds later, Agumon decided on her course of action. Akira hadn't given her a specific command, but he had given her a vague one, right? She would treat Akira's vague command as a direct order and execute accordingly. Collect dimensional creatures, huh? These creatures' energy is somewhat similar to Akira's source power. They might be useful to him. A few minutes later, after teleporting hundreds of thousands of sea demon dragons, Agumon joined the effort to collect dimensional creatures. Meanwhile, in Fuyuki City, Kiriko Tomine was in the midst of battle. His red spear danced through the air, continuously slaying invading sea demons and dimensional creatures. He didn't have a noble desire to protect the people. The reason he fought was simple. If he didn't kill these invaders, they would hunt him down. Earlier, he had even boarded Gilgamesh's mana. But once they took to the skies, the sea demons began merging into larger forms capable of reaching them. Reluctantly, Gilgamesh was DA to clear the monsters and landed back on the ground. On the ground, the sea demons wouldn't merge into massive forms. King of Heroes, do you have any idea what's going on? Kirai already knew that these invaders had gone berserk due to Gilgamesh's actions. But he didn't understand why things had escalated to this point. It seemed that both he and Gilgamesh had a natural attraction for sea demons and dimensional creatures. Gilgamesh, now more relaxed after landing, sipped his wine and explained. Kirai, you know that man called himself a world destroyer, right? Yes, he did. But what does that have to do with this? Of course it does. Gilgamesh downed his divine wine. These invaders attack us because they seek to erode and destroy the world. You and I. We both carry the foundation of this world. That's why we have memories from 10 years in the future. Devouring the world's foundation is the simplest way to destroy it. In essence, these invaders and that man, Akira, are doing the same thing. That was Gilgamesh's explanation. From Akira's perspective, it was because they carried fortune that they naturally attracted the attention of these world-destroying invaders. Gilgamesh and Kirai were like this. Others who carried fortune would naturally be the same. On the shattered streets of Fuyuki City, a sofa was on the run. The girl sitting on it had a beauty that didn't require excessive adornment to turn heads. Her shoulder-length brown hair swayed in the wind, exuding a youthful and sunny aura. Her name was Ayako Mitsuzuri. When Ayako first enrolled at Hamura Academy, she was immediately recognized as a top-tier beauty, both in appearance and demeanor. The reason? Well, it was because the Type Moon world only had a few character designs for beautiful girls. A few days ago, Ayako had gained memories of the future. In this world line, she hadn't directly participated in the Holy Grail War, but due to her friendship with Sakura Matu, she had learned some things about it. A battery. Of course, Sakura wasn't the type to easily make friends. The reason she befriended Ayako was to use her as a battery to summon Akira. In her search for the missing Akira, Sakura had dabbled in dangerous interdimensional rituals, but the summoning had failed. As Akira's contractor, Sakura, after awakening her imaginary number abilities, had noticed certain individuals who were different from ordinary people. Like herself, her sister Rin Tasaka, and Ayako Mitsuzuri. If the offerings weren't enough, she would need to add more. But to offer fortune and magical energy, simply having people wasn't enough, they had to be completely devoted. So, Sakura had actively befriended Ayako, intending to use her someday. Unfortunately, before she could, the world line naturally derived by the world's consciousness had already shattered. Chapter 81, Alter Two Forms and the Girl Fujimura Taiga. Thud, thud, thud. Mitsuzuri Ayako ran desperately, her breath ragged. Beneath her pleated skirt, her long, fair legs moved swiftly, one after the other. Thanks to her regular exercise routine, her legs were well-toned and strong. It was precisely because of her powerful and enduring legs that she had managed to temporarily escape the clutches of the sea demons and dimensional creatures chasing her. There's a saying, when being chased by a bear, you don't need to outrun the bear, you just need to outrun your companions. Of course, that's under normal circumstances. But Mitsuzuri Ayako's situation was far from normal. She was being pursued by an entire horde of sea demons. Even if she outran one, the others would still be hot on her heels. Why? Why are these things chasing me? Ayako's voice trembled with frustration. Why was it that others could escape danger after just a few steps, while she was relentlessly hunted? Thankfully, she had awakened memories of her future self, allowing her to transform into her older, more capable version. Otherwise, with her childhood height and shorter legs, she would have already become food for the sea demons. Thud. Unfortunately, as Ayako cursed her fate, her foot caught on an uneven patch of ground. Her balance faltered, and she tumbled to the ground. She screamed, watching in horror as the sea demons closed in on her. But then, in the next moment, a streak of fluorescent blue light shot toward her from the distance. It was the light of the White Dragon Emperor's wings, accelerating at incredible speed. A majestic, white-armored figure soared past, obliterating the surrounding sea demons in an instant. Huh? Before Ayako could process what had happened, she felt herself being lifted off the ground. When she regained her senses, she was soaring through the air. Instinctively, she clung tightly to the white armor beside her. The sensation of flying at high speed was just as terrifying as being chased by the sea demons. Fortunately, Akira's flight didn't last long. Soon, Ayako was safely deposited near the Innsburn Castle, a secure location. "You'll be safe here for now," Akira said, gently setting her down. As he released her from the Princess Carry, a gust of wind blew, and Ayako instinctively clutched her skirt. Princess Carries are so dangerous. Way too easy to expose yourself, she thought. Your armor is so beautiful. Ayako couldn't help but admire the person who had saved her. As Ayako studied Akira, he also took a moment to observe her. Two forms? No, wait. This is Mitsuzuri Ayako. Akira's thoughts raced. The system only integrated parts of this world's lore, not the entire consciousness of the Type Moon universe. So, two forms shouldn't exist here. He scrutinized Ayako carefully. Well, this is the Type Moon world after all. Mitsuzuri Ayako could definitely pass as a two-form substitute. After quickly adjusting her skirt and calming her nerves, Ayako mustered the courage to speak to the white-armored figure. "Thank you for saving me. May I ask? What should I call you?" "Call me Akira." "Here, take this," he said, tossing her a holy cross. "If you encounter any sea demons, just think of my name, and this will keep you safe." The item was called the Blessed Holy Cross. Akira. Ayako murmured, the name feeling oddly familiar, though she couldn't quite place where she'd heard it before. If she could see his face through the white armor, she might have remembered. But the White Dragon Emperor's armor concealed his features completely. "Stay here for now. You can't leave if you want, but it's safer to wait until I've cleared out all the invading creatures," Akira said. With a flap of his radiant, fluorescent blue wings, he vanished into the sky, heading off to rescue others. He had noticed that these invading creatures seemed to target individuals with strong spiritual energy. Akira couldn't let them disrupt his plans, so he had no time to waste on Ayako, despite the perfect opportunity to win her over. Clutching the Holy Cross, Ayako watched Akira disappear into the distance. "Akira," she whispered. As soon as she spoke his name, the cross around her neck glowed brightly. According to Akira's instructions, simply thinking of him would activate the cross. As the light enveloped her, an image of a young man appeared in her mind. He was impossibly handsome, almost otherworldly. But what struck Ayako most was that she recognized him. "He's that Akira?" As Sakura's close friend, Ayako had heard countless stories about Akira and had even seen sketches Sakura had drawn of him. But she never imagined she'd meet him under such circumstances. The difference between the drawings and the real person was so vast that Ayako couldn't help but critique Sakura's artistic skills. "Akira." Ayako called his name again in her mind.